1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the Police Show, yet not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to a Friday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all of our great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and of course streaming live on YouTube. 855-212-4227 is the number to jump on in. 855-212-4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter X at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. I got Moist Mike. I got Chris Hess. We are rocking and rolling with you all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Aaron Bronstetter, MMA reporter for Sportsnet. He is going to stop by an hour 20 from now as we will react to the least surprising news on the planet that did break late last night. Conor McGregor, Michael Chandler, as I predicted, was not going to happen at UFC 303 once that press conference was canceled. That was supposed to come your way 2 weeks from now on June 29th. That is postponed because reportedly Conor McGregor suffered an injury and he's going to be out for a bare minimum of 2 months. So we will hold our breath. We will wait and we will see when that will get rescheduled. And Dana White has to reschedule it because of how long Chandler was waiting and then the triumphant return of Conor McGregor. But I will say this right out of the gate. I'll believe that Conor McGregor makes his return to the octagon when he is actually in the octagon and they are ready to get that fight underway, and he's walking out to get into the octagon and fight Michael Chandler. So we'll chat a little UFC coming up in an hour 20 from now. But let's start with the biggest news of the day, and we turn our attention to the gridiron, where Trevor Lawrence, he got the bag. And let me just say this right out of the gate. Good for Trevor Lawrence. I'm extremely jealous of Trevor Lawrence. I would love to be Trevor Lawrence today for many reasons. Number one, the hair. Number two, he just signed a 5-year contract worth $275 million, and $200 million of that is guaranteed. Holy smokes. Like, we knew Trevor Lawrence was going to get a lucrative deal. But if you look based off merit, it's not really deserved. But a lot of times in the NFL, you don't have to be great. You don't have to be proven. You don't have to have an ample amount of success to get paid as if you're the best quarterback in the league, which we know Trevor Lawrence is not. And I'm not even that out on Trevor Lawrence like some people are. But the fact is with Trevor Lawrence, year one, you could chalk it up to Urban Meyer being a bozo in the NFL. I'll give you that. Then in year two, he gets a competent coach in Doug Peterson, and Trevor Lawrence looked like he was going to be the player that was advertised. But then last year, he regressed. He also got hurt, and the Jaguars were a severely disappointing team that underachieved. We thought the Jaguars were going to be able to take that next step. I thought the Jaguars could have been a dark horse to get to an AFC championship game, be a dark horse to be the number one overall seed in the AFC, and they didn't even make the playoffs. So that's a Jacksonville team and a Jacksonville organization. I get why they made this move today, because it's the Jaguars. What are you going to do if Trevor Lawrence fails? Like, this is your guy. This is your number one overall pick. He has been fine, but he has not been anywhere close to this transcendent, generational quarterback that we've been told he was going to be for 2 to 3 years when he was in college. And all I'm saying the Jaguars should have done, like, I get why they do this today, but what is the harm in waiting? Why not see if he could replicate what he did 2 years ago and last year was an outlier this season? He's only 3 years into the league. You didn't have to give him this deal right now, even if you are the Jacksonville Jaguars. You could have waited, and even if that means the price goes up another $1 million to $3 million a year, so be it. You would be thrilled if Trevor Lawrence didn't get this contract extension and Trevor Lawrence goes out there this year and tosses, 35 touchdowns to 10 interceptions, and the price goes up a little bit. Instead, you paid him now when this is a player who the first year in the league, once again, chalk it up to Urban Meyer, but he did not play well. The second year in the league, he was a really good quarterback. And last year, they underachieved. So 2 out of the 3 years, he hasn't been all that. 2 out of the 3 years, he's made you question and wonder if Trevor Lawrence is ever going to come anywhere close to meeting the hype and the expectations were around him. So this deal to me, and this is not anti-Trevor Lawrence. I like Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence has come on the show twice in the last 2 years. I think his conversations whenever he's on the air are very good. And I was just talking to Ricky Ricardo, who works there, who's the play-by-play, Spanish play-by-play voice of the Yankees, and also does the Spanish play-by-play for the Philadelphia Eagles. And he saw like a GIF that I put out last night where Trevor Lawrence with his luscious locks is flipping his hair all through the air. And it was like slow-mo when he was joining us on the show 2 years ago. And he was like, "Oh, how was Trevor Lawrence when you talked to him?" And I said, "Consummate professional, good dude, always enjoy my conversations with him." So I'm happy for Trevor Lawrence, but it's not going to prevent me from saying that the Jaguars should not have done this right now. And Samter, this is the crazy part to me with a lot of these quarterbacks. And this is not foreign territory. This is not uncharted territory where a guy who's been good at times gets great money, but usually there is more success from those quarterbacks than what we've seen from Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence, 3 years in the league, has had one good season. And you're seeing this now from NFL quarterbacks and NFL organizations that they make the decisions very early on quarterbacks. We got a lot of quarterbacks that go in the first round that within a year, 2, 3 years, they're off the team that drafted them. And a lot of times it feels like that occurs for quarterbacks that are in the top 15 picks of the draft. But then on the flip side, because of how lucrative these deals are, it's almost as if the teams tell you that if we think you can be good, even if we haven't seen it on the field for a sustained amount of time, and we think you could be our guy, we're going to get ahead of the curve and we're going to pay you record-breaking money now so we save a few $1 million a few years from now. And we've seen teams give out these big, enormous contracts to players of all different ages. And then they're taking some of the largest dead cap hits we've ever seen. Look at recent memory. Jared Goff. I know they ended up working for the Lions, but the Rams, and it worked for the Rams too. The Rams got rid of him, had to eat so much money. Carson Wentz. Russell Wilson didn't even hit his extension with the Denver Broncos. So it's not just younger quarterbacks. It's also older quarterbacks that are getting some of these crazy dollars. And that's the word to me, Samter, that I'll use is unnecessary. Like, teams think it's necessary to pay quarterbacks that are unproven a ridiculous amount of money because if they hit, they have the contract squared away and they save a few $1 million a season. But wouldn't you rather pay a few $1 million a season more instead of having the problem where a year or two from now, if Lawrence, unfortunately, is more the quarterback that he's displayed the first 3 years of his career, which have been more bad than good, then you have to eat all this money when you're trying to get him off your roster? So this is the Jaguars telling you that this is our guy, and we believe that he's going to be more of the Trevor Lawrence that we saw in year 2 rather than what's been bookend by that year 2 with year 1 and year 3. And that's been my take with Lawrence, Mike, from the start. And I've sat here many times in this offseason, and when we've brought up, and we'll talk about guys like Tua, and we'll talk about Jordan Love and guys like that later, I sat here and said, let me see more from these guys before we go give them this king ransom offer. But Jacksonville told you they were confident they were going to get a deal done. Like Peterson said it 2 weeks ago. He wasn't lying because Trent Baalke, Doug Peterson, and the Khan family, they gave out $200 million guaranteed to Trevor Lawrence on a 5-year contract extension worth $275 million.
Yeah, I think just in general, we kind of talk, you mentioned it, but just generally speaking, I don't love this idea of paying a guy $55 million. The salary cap is $255. That's 22% of your salary cap going to one player, right? You have 55 guys on your roster plus practice squad guys that you have to fill in that other $200 million. It's too much money to go to one guy. And if he is not elite of the elite, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, those guys who can literally carry a team on their shoulders no matter what kind of talent you have around them.
Name the 4 that you just named again. Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. Who were the other 2?
Allen and Burrow.
Allen and Burrow.
Yes.
And only one of those guys has a Super Bowl, and that's Mahomes with 3.
Right, but those are the 4 guys I think can probably carry a team on their shoulders. Justin Herbert's close, but not quite there.
Justin Herbert has to show a lot more.
For sure. Jalen Hurts, there's a couple guys who have that. Jordan Love could potentially be those guys. C.J. Stroud. But for right now, there's 4 guys who we have seen carry a team. Yeah, but Rodgers, probably his last year. We don't know who he's going to be.
Year or 2 max.
Sure, Rodgers. But really, there's those 4 guys. And maybe Rodgers 4.5. Outside of that, to give a guy this kind of money to me is just, it's insane in the sense that like you're putting everything on this one guy. And if he can't carry your team, you're going to debilitate your
future
chance to do anything. This is what the Cowboys are doing with Dak. And I think it's brilliant. They're refusing to give Dak this 55 because they realize that the only way that Dak can succeed is if he has talent around him. And
I think that's a little misleading when you sell it that way.
I think that's what the Cowboys are doing.
We have seen the Cowboys go through these negotiations before with Dak Prescott, and they made him wait. Dak got hurt and then still got the crazy extension. I think why Dak doesn't have a deal, I think it's more so on Dak than it is the Dallas Cowboys, where I think Dak's saying, I have all the leverage here. You guys want to pay me. You guys believe in me. And I have a no tag clause so I can get to free agency regardless this year. And it may benefit me to leave the organization. But we'll get back to Dak in a bit. I want to circle back on what you said on the front part of your statement. I don't have a problem. Let me be clear. Like Samter and I, we have a disconnect on this in one way. Like, yes, would I want my quarterback to take less money? Of course. Do I think it's going to happen? No. No one ever does it but Tom Brady. But I don't have an issue paying the quarterback, the franchise quarterback, a fat contract that takes up a heavy percentage of your salary cap because it's up to the GM to number crunch and figure out a way, like a lot of great GMs do, to move around and restructure other people's contracts. I don't have a problem with that part. My problem is when you give out the Godfather offer. And it seems like we give out the Godfather offer now to these quarterbacks When it's not based off merit, it's based off potential, it's based off of hope. And I understand paying a player for the future, but what have the Jaguars seen that would suggest through 3 years of his career that Trevor Lawrence needs to get this offer right now and needs to sign this right now? All I wanted the Jaguars to do, and I understand you could have waited 2 more years because you do have the 5th-year option, but he's going into year number 4. All I wanted them to do is reevaluate and figure out if they wanted to give this offer and maybe have to tack on a few more million a year from now. Because once again, year 1, Urban Meyer's fault, but Trevor Lawrence wasn't good. Year 2, he was very damn good under Doug Peterson. And last year, they regressed. I know he wasn't 100% healthy, but all I'm simply asking is, Trevor Lawrence, go out there and reassure me that you could be what you were in year 2, and I would have happily, if I was the Khan family, then gave you this offer a year from now, even if it ended up costing me more money. That's all I'm saying. There was no need to rush to get this deal done, and I get it. The Jaguars are kind of an obscure franchise. The Jaguars, this could be their face of the franchise guy. But if Trevor Lawrence is more like the player in year 1 and year 3 than he was in year 2, they're going to regret this in short order. I hope he's very successful. I hope he ends up being sensational. But he was marketed as a generational talent, a transcendent player. And so far on the football field, in his NFL career, not talking Clemson, his NFL career, I haven't seen the Trevor Lawrence that we were told he was going to be all that. And it's not because I'm a Jaguar hater. It's not that I'm a Trevor Lawrence hater. I like Trevor Lawrence. But I thought this year they were going to take that next step, and they didn't move in the right direction. They moved in the wrong direction. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Do you think this was a smart decision by the Jaguars right now through 3 years of what you've seen by Trevor Lawrence to give him a 5-year contract extension worth $275 million with $200 million guaranteed? We talked a little bit about Dak. We will talk more about Tua. We'll talk more about Dak. And also, what do the Packers do now with Jordan Love after this Trevor Lawrence news? 855-212-4227. 855-212-4227. You can always find me Instagram and Twitter at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. We're coming on back.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
This is the Infinity Sports Network.
All righty, talking about the Trevor Lawrence contract right out of the gate. We'll tell you what that means for Tua Tagovailoa, Dak Prescott, and Jordan Love in just a second. Also, during the break, I looked up who the top 10 highest paid quarterbacks are in the NFL with their average annual salary. And we'll see if Samter is in or out on those QBs coming up in just a moment. But first, 855-212-4227. 855-212-4227. A 5-year contract extension, $275 million, $200 million guaranteed for Trevor Lawrence. Oliver in Philly wants to chat about that. Oliver, what do you got cooking today, pal?
Hey, how you doing?
Doing great, Oliver.
Here's my thing. The thing is, how do you sit there and prioritize or empathize with a contracted contract?
What's your point?
My point is, I feel like a lot of the time we sit here and we take, long-term contracts, and it's very convenient for us being somewhere where I am currently at Westminster University, trying to be a university, trying to be someone like you, Zach Gelb, trying to be a sportscaster, right? And someone that's trying to do that, it's kind of it kind of gets frustrating when certain people say that certain ideologies should be prioritized. And I think that I don't know if you agree with me, Zach Gelb, but I'll tell you, I don't think that news exactly is going to be exactly the way that we get information out there.
Do you have a point, Oliver?
Right. I don't think that that's the way that we just like shove information out there. I think it's more of a collective group.
You know that the news broke that he got the contract, and we're reacting to it. You understand that, right?
Yeah, and that's why I called you.
So I have a job, and I have to respond to what's out there. So you're calling this show and responding. I'm waiting for like the punchline here. Like, is there a joke? Is there like a gotcha moment here? You know, deliver the punchline if you want.
Well, I wouldn't. I kind of apologize because I wouldn't exactly call it a punchline or a joke. I would kind of call it the first way of just saying that I have a lot to say when it's within the, I don't know what it would even be called.
All right, you have no point. Thank you. I've taken a lot of bad phone calls. That's maybe the worst phone call I've ever taken. I was giving him a chance. I sat there for 3-4 minutes, and there is still no point that was being made. Now, I think there could be two things there. One, that was a prank phone call, and that's someone that was just trying to deliver a punchline, and then once I say, deliver the punchline, they got, and they got nervous. Or two, it sounded like he was saying he was in some college, and if that's the case and he's aspiring to be a media member, God bless. Good luck to you in your career. And maybe he just got nervous. But either that's someone that's got no time on their hands and they're just trying to prank us, which just deliver the punchline and keep it moving, and then I'll react to that. That's fine. Or that was just someone that thought they had a point and then they just kind of froze on the spot when they were given the opportunity to state their case, Samter. What did he say when he called in?
I don't know. I wasn't in the room. This was not screened by me.
Oh, hold on. Do you hear that noise?
Yeah, I'm backing up the bus. Listen,
you are
Hess.
backing up the bus, and you're just throwing Chris Hess under the bus.
Well, you asked me a question. What did he say? I don't know.
You were backing up the Hess truck.
Oh, yes.
So, Chris Hess, let me ask you then. What was his point, Oliver in Philly?
Just wanted to talk about the Trevor Lawrence contract, and if I remember correctly, early on he said, I don't think he's worth that kind of money, and anyone who thinks he deserves that type of money is out of their mind, basically.
Gotcha.
So he says that to me, but then doesn't portray it to you,
Yeah.
And I was thinking, okay, if that's his point, that's fine, but I wasn't expecting a soliloquy.
I don't even know if there was
or
any
whatever
point
the
to
heck that was.
I thought I was in the weekend overnight days again when I would talk to people that would be, way too much intoxicated. And I was like, what are you trying to say? I don't know.
The one thing I will say is I know that you called into Bart's show and pranked Shep one time.
No
That
shot.
almost sounded like Shep in a prank sense.
Let me tell you this, and I love Shep. Shep wouldn't have the stones to prank phone call me. He wouldn't. Shep thinks that kind of radio. I actually wouldn't say he doesn't have the stones. Shep thinks that kind of radio that I did when I called Bart, and I was trying to prank Bart at first, but then I was whoever, Alex in Milwaukee or whatever, and I was getting under Shep's skin for saying that he could coach the Lakers. Shep thinks that is not appropriate radio. He has told me that. He thinks he's above that type of juvenile behavior on the good old radio. So, Oliver in Philly. I feel like I've taken a call, though, before from Oliver in Philly. I have recognized that name before. Now, there could be many Olivers in Philly, but that was a call that I just don't understand what the heck was trying to be said. And I wasn't being a jerk. Like, I could totally understand. There are times where someone calls in, says something so stupid, and I'll lose my mind and I'll go off. I was giving him a chance to say something, and I don't know, just the way he was saying my name, like, Zach Gelb. I don't know. My antenna was up. I think there was just something bizarre in that one.
He didn't say anything stupid. He just didn't say anything at all.
Yeah, it was, it's like Billy Madison.
Everything you just said has made everyone in this room dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Thank you. I usually have to look that up before I recite that, so I'm very impressed that Samter has that right on the tee ready
He
to
is
go.
cultured. My goodness, I love that.
That's a great movie.
Nobody's ever called a Billy Madison fan cultured. that is the least cultured movie in the history of movies.
But you still pulled the quote out, and that was perfect for
Yeah.
the time being. You came up with it like that. Perfect.
I hate to inform everybody. The reason why Samter was out for 3 weeks wasn't because he had COVID, wasn't because his car wasn't working, wasn't because a tree fell down in front of his house, it wasn't because he was moving. It's because he was practicing for that moment. He got up every day, he recited that in front of the mirror, and he said, next time Zach needs that line, I'm going to ace it. Don't tell anyone that Samter doesn't put the show first.
You want the truth? You can't handle the truth.
Anyway, Samter, yes or no? Is this player worth it? Just at the top 10 average annual value salaries in the NFL for quarterbacks. Joe Burrow, $55 million. I'm taking Trevor Lawrence out of this, by the way.
Yes.
Jared Goff, $53 million.
No.
Ooh. I actually push back on Jared Goff because the organization has a chance to go win a Super Bowl this year. Like, do I think Jared Goff should be, up until yesterday, the second highest paid quarterback in the NFL? No. But he's done a very good job there, and I thought they had to get that deal done, even if they had to pay more, because they have an opportunity to go win their first ever championship.
It smells of desperation from a desperate franchise. At the end of the day, they're not going to regret it if they hold up a Lombardi trophy, but he's not worth that money.
Okay. Well, if he holds up a Lombardi trophy, he's definitely worth that money. Justin Herbert at $52.5 million.
He's one of those guys that's tough. I'm going to say yes.
I agree.
Because I think he has the talent to be that guy, but there's something missing with Justin Herbert that he should be able to do more with what he has, even with bad coaching.
114 touchdowns, the 42 interceptions his first 4 years in the league. Here's what I'll say about Justin Herbert. He needs to be better in the fourth quarter, but I think the last few years was more of a reflection on Brandon Staley rather than Justin Herbert. Lamar Jackson at $52 million.
100%.
Jalen Hurts at $51 million. Guy outplayed Mahomes in a Super Bowl.
If you had asked me halfway through last year, I would have said absolutely. I think so, yes. I think that he's right on that cusp of that top of the tier 2. Mm-hmm. He just needs to be a little bit more consistent. Yes.
It's a big year for Hurts because that 2 years ago he was an MVP kind of player.
Yeah.
Last year took a step back after getting a 10-1 start. This is a big year for Jalen Hurts, and there's not a lot of weaknesses on that roster. Kyler Murray, $46.1 million.
No, but I think he has the potential to be the guy, but no, he doesn't deserve that money.
Actually, I don't know why this... $46.1 million, that's why. Deshaun Watson, $46 million.
Not in any way, shape, or form.
After 2020, I would have said yes. But 2021, no. 2022, no.
One of the worst contracts ever.
2023,
A
no.
guy
2024,
going through those legal problems who hasn't played football in a year and a half, you give a fully guaranteed deal. It was just idiotic by the Browns.
It's a desperate franchise that thought they could get their guy, even if they had to give up all those picks. I can't even say they got him at a bargain. And they thought, okay, this is our best chance to go get our guy. And so far, he has not been healthy. Kirk Cousins, $45 million.
No.
It's a good quarterback, but
he's all right.
The best bargain in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes, $45 million. That age as one of the greatest, maybe the greatest contract in the history of the NFL.
Tom Brady, for years, part of the reason why the Patriots had longevity with winning was that he was taking below market value contracts, and he was getting back end money in other ways.
But they were still short
well.
deals. This was a long deal for Mahomes.
Well, so that was part of it. So he went long term with a high total guarantee and high total amount, but a smaller per year average. That, of course, he was going to rework over time. But it was a brilliant
and he's restructured
deal.
A few times.
And it was a brilliant deal for Mahomes, a brilliant deal for the team.
It was 10 for $450.
Yes. Brilliant deal for everybody. And of course, he's going to restructure it over time and get a little bit more here and there. And he already has. But it was such a brilliant move because he got the big money guaranteed, but also the low average annual salary that helps the team build around him. This is why guys like Mahomes, guys like Brady are going to win long term because the teams will consistently be able to be built around them. But when a guy like Trevor Lawrence takes $55 million, eventually the team is going to have to get rid of star all-pro caliber players that they can't afford, and then he won't be able to carry them.
And isn't it funny with both Brady and Mahomes? You think with them taking less, they'll go out there and they have these rock stars at wide receivers, and they don't. but they invest in the line, they invest in the defense and other areas, knowing you could cut corners at the wide receiver position because of who you have throwing the football. You want to take a guess when Mahomes becomes a free agent, according to Spot Rack, how old he will be?
Was it 2032?
Yeah. He'd be 37 years old, it says in Spot Rack.
He'll get another deal after that if he wants to play.
He'll go to the Jets.
That 100%. That's exactly the Jets type of quarterback.
And then finally, here's another good bargain. $43 million. Josh Allen.
Yeah, of course that's worth it.
All right, the next three guys, all $40 million a year. Matthew Stafford.
Yes.
Worth it. Dak Prescott.
At $40 million, just based on the market, no, but I'm not up in arms about it. But
$40 million, even though I don't think Dak's a great quarterback, that's kind of a steal.
In the market that they're in, but just generally speaking, giving that percentage of a deal to a guy who you don't think can carry your team and falls in the biggest moments, $40 million is a bargain compared to the rest of the guys, but just percentage-wise, that's still 20% of the cap. I would say no.
You want to know who also is a $40 million a year guy?
Tell me.
Danny freaking Dimes. Daniel Jones.
That one is absolutely worth it because that means that the team is going to be so bad for so long that they're going to get number one pick after number one pick after number one pick, and they'll build for the future.
$37.5 million, Aaron Rodgers. All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll take a break. We'll come on back. We will follow through on what the Trevor Lawrence deal means, if anything at all, for Tua Tagovailoa, for Dak Prescott, and also Jordan Love. Let's get the latest Infinity Sports Network update, though, first with the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Oh, it's been 18 years since the Celtics last won a title. They're on the precipice of their 18th championship and look to wrap it up tonight in Dallas. Boston holds a 3-0 series lead over the Mavericks. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have brought the franchise back. The former knows he needs a title to be considered an all-time great Celtic.
Ever since I've been in the NBA, especially with the Celtics, everybody knows we only hang up championship banners, and it's been a while since we've won one, and ever since 2008, the goal is to win another one every single year.
The Celtics are able to win Wednesday without Kristaps Porzingis. He remains uncertain for Game 4 because of an ankle injury. Baseball this afternoon at Wrigley, no score between the Cardinals and the Cubs in the top half of the 6th. The good pitchers duel, 2 hits for each team so far. Patrick Cantlay and Ludwig Åberg are tied for the lead at the U.S. Open at 6 under par with Matthew Pavone 1 shot back, and Bryson DeChambeau and Thomas Dietrich another shot back at 4 under par. Scotty Scheffler in danger of missing the cut at 5 over. I'm Rich Ackerman.
The Infinity Sports Network is on your smart speaker. All you have to say is play Infinity Sports Network. That's it. Play Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Infinity Sports Network.
All right, it is the Infinity Sports Network, and it is the Zach Gelb Show. It's time to Ask the Pros, where you, the listener, gets to ask us a question. It's brought to you by our dear friends at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at INFSportsNet or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag #AskThePros. Be listening later in the show when we might answer your question. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. So off of the Trevor Lawrence deal, which is a 5-year contract, $275 million, $200 million guaranteed. What does this mean for Tua? What does this mean for Dak? And what does this mean for Jordan Love? If I'm running the Miami Dolphins, if I'm running the Green Bay Packers, and if I'm running the Dallas Cowboys, I am not getting a deal done this offseason with Tua, Dak, or Jordan Love. If I was going to get a long-term extension done with Dak Prescott, it would have been before free agency started. And I know that they lowered his cap hit this year by $5 million. I think it was 60 and they trimmed it down to 55. But that was well after free agency started. And it was a foregone conclusion that Dak was going to get an extension before the start of free agency because they wanted to move out or move around the salary cap number of this final year of the contract. But now, with that not being the case, everyone is of the understanding that Dak and the Cowboys, it would be a shock if they get a deal done before week 1. It's almost like Dak's kind of saying, I have the power here. I've done this before where I've waited, franchise tags, and then had the terrible injury, and I still got the bag. If you don't want to give me what I want on my terms, then I could go somewhere else and get that deal done at the end of the season because he has a no tag clause in the contract, and he could go anywhere he wants next year if he chooses to do so. Personally, like if I was Dak, I would consider leaving the Cowboys this offseason. I don't think he's going to do that. I think there's a chance. But if I was a betting man, you put a gun to my head, will Dak sign a future contract extension with the Cowboys? I would say yes. But Tua and Love are more fascinating because Tua last year statistically had a top 5 season. I did not watch Tua, though, and see a top 5 quarterback. I saw Tua beat up on a lot of bad teams, and then when he had to go up against the very good or great teams, I did not see a great Tua Tagovailoa. And here's the thing with Tua. Early on in his career, Brian Flores didn't support Tua Tagovailoa. Then Mike McDaniel comes to town, goes to that charity event, like right away as the coach to his charity event, and Tua received more support from Mike McDaniel in a week than he ever received from Brian Flores. I think Brian Flores did a really good job in Miami, but the one problem was his biggest flaw, and that was he could never get on the same page, never have a good relationship with his quarterback. I don't care if Brian Flores got more to that team than people were capable of and thought he was capable of, right? They were supposed to be the first pick of the draft the year they got Tua, and they were supposed to be tanking for Tua, and Tua was supposed to be the number 1 pick. Then you had the emergence of Joe Burrow, and then it was you got to see the Dolphins fall to the 5th spot. That was a good season for Miami that year with the lack of talent that they had. The Dolphins did a solid job under Brian Flores, but when you fail to have a connection and a relationship with the 5th overall pick in the draft, that's going to derail your head coaching career. So when I look at Tua, since most of the career, he hasn't been that dude. He's had one good year, and before that, we had this big discussion about concussions and how he's one more concussion away, where everyone's going to be saying, take Tua off the field, and he has to sit out longer than everybody else. You know, he did get healthy. He got through the entire season last year healthy. And, you know, in terms of the head injuries, and he didn't have to miss games. But Tua now goes into year 5, and I still don't know if he's that dude. Like, I think his apex in this league for someone that was supposed to be transcendent, someone that was supposed to be generational, someone that was supposed to be great, I don't think he's going to be any of those 3 classifications. So I think Tua at his best is just very good. Now, will Tua probably get a deal from the Dolphins? I'm going to say no before the start of the season. Now, obviously, these deals can get done. Look at Trevor Lawrence, but if the Tua deal does not get done in the next 2-3 weeks, I think this is going to be the Dolphins who believe in Tua. Like Chris Greer believes in Tua, even when Flores was there. Mike McDaniel has, attached himself to the hip of Tua Tagovailoa. But this is a Dolphins team that has a heck of an offensive roster. Odell Beckham Jr., I know he's no longer a star. He's your 3rd wide receiver right now. You got Jalen Waddle. He'd be a 1 in a lot of other teams. Then you got, arguably the best wide receiver in football in Tyreek Hill. And you have a quarterback that I question if he could be great in the big game. And I know what he did in college, Alabama fans, but I'm talking about the NFL. And if this guy could stay healthy. So what I said about Trevor Lawrence is the same thing I'll say about Tua. It doesn't mean teams are going to listen. I would wait if I am the Miami Dolphins on paying him. But Santer, Tua, I think it's fair to argue what he did last year. And I know he didn't win a playoff game, and Trevor Lawrence has won a playoff game before. But what he did last year is a good year. And what Trevor Lawrence did in year 2 was a good year, and that was sandwiched in between a bad year and a bad year. Like, if I'm Tua Tagovailoa, I'm calling my agent, and I'm saying, I know that he'll take the field even if he doesn't have a deal, but I would threaten, I'm not taking the field until I get this contract squared away. Because if Trevor Lawrence gets that, $275 million over 5 years and $200 million guaranteed, why can't I get that? That's what I would be saying, Samter, if I'm Tua in his agency right now, and I would put the pressure on the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if I'm Tua, I'm doing that too. But at the end of the day, Tua has an injury history that Trevor Lawrence doesn't really have.
Trevor was banged up last year.
Yeah, but Tua has missed
Hip,
significant time from
concussion,
college to now.
Ankle.
I understand a little bit more hesitancy, and the Dolphins can get away with being like, listen, it's not your play on the field. It's just we have to make sure that we can invest in you long term. So they have a little bit more of an out. But yeah, of course, if I'm Tua,
But do they really have an out? Like, we think they have an out, but then what do they do? Like, if they get rid of Tua, what are they doing? Like, could you find someone that's better than Tua? I'm sure you can, but that's still a complicated process for a team that's ready to go win double-digit games. So if this is Tua's last year and you're planning on moving on, you got to find that next plan right away in this offseason. And it's not going to be through the draft, so it would be via trade or it would be, free agency a year from now.
Well, the Dolphins also have a team that feels young enough. I know Tyreek Hill is a veteran, but you got Achane, you got that run game, and you've got Waddle. Right? They're young on offense, young enough, and there is youth on that defense. There's also some veterans there, too, but there's enough youth on that defense where...
The defense is the concern. You got guys coming back from injury, too.
Sure.
Phillips and Chubb.
We've just seen this around the NFL. If a team likes a guy but doesn't love a guy...
They still pay him.
They don't... Well, not
they
necessarily.
Do.
They only seem to pay the guys that they love. We're seeing it more and more now where it seemed like, like when Andy Dalton was getting big deals from the Bengals, it just seemed like if you had a guy, you just paid him whatever the market was. We're seeing teams, whether you draft a guy in the top 10 or you have a guy who's been good but you're not sure about, they're getting rid of him.
But Tua has all the leverage here, and here's why. Because the guy that you will say that Tua could get replaced by in Miami next year is Dak. Am I jumping through hula hoops to go get Dak Prescott? Do I need Dak Prescott?
If you had a choice between Tua and Dak, if you're the Dolphins, who are you taking?
I think I'd rather have Tua, and here's why.
Interesting.
Here's why. Who's the better quarterback right now? Dak. But Dak's ceiling is clearly just being a good quarterback. I think Tua's ceiling is just being a good quarterback, but there's not been enough time yet when he's been on the field to fully display that. So I would rather have Tua over Dak. It's not a ringing endorsement for Tua. I get that, but I would personally rather go Tua than Dak. Now, how about Jordan Love? He enters the final year of his deal. You know who should represent Jordan Love? Mike Tannenbaum. Mike Tannenbaum, the former general manager, should represent Jordan Love because he said 2 weeks ago on the Dan Patrick Show that if you're drafting players for the future in the NFL, clearly Mahomes is one, but then the next player is Jordan Love in at 2. But the Jordan Love one, to me, is fascinating because the Packers said he was their guy the moment they drafted him to eventually replace Aaron Rodgers. Now, last year was the first year we saw Jordan Love actually play an entire season, and it was a slow start with a strong finish. And it's a small sample size. But you are running out of time. Now, I guess, I don't know the particulars of when they renegotiated his contract, but I'm assuming they could still tag him. And he's a free agent after this year, so they could technically tag him twice. But for a guy that Gutekunst moved on from Rodgers for, what leverage does Gutekunst and the Packers have? Like, they got to pay Jordan Love. And I get that could sound hypocritical when I said, the Jaguars should wait for Trevor Lawrence. They didn't. The Dolphins should wait on Tua. We'll see if they do so. Like, I would say, sure, the Packers should wait as well. But whether it's this year or a year from now or 2 years from now, when you want to go the tag game or not, they're going to be paying Jordan Love. Because if you don't pay Jordan Love, Gutekunst, your ass is right out the door because you were the guy that drafted him and ran Aaron Rodgers out of town. So you want to talk about no leverage, and I think a lot of these teams don't have leverage in this situation, the Packers really have no leverage. Because it's not only, yes, it's a small sample size, but because of how well Love played at the end of the year, people are raving about him and think he's going to be a great quarterback in the NFL. So I'll make the predictions. Week 1, Dak won't get a deal by week 1. 2, I think it'll be close. He won't get a new deal. I think Love will get a new deal. And I'm not going to say it's a team-friendly deal, but I don't think it's going to be $55 million a year like what we saw Trevor Lawrence get the other day. All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We will take a timeout. When we come on back, who is the QB under the most pressure entering this season? If we did this topic like 3 weeks ago, I think I would have like 5 quarterbacks. I can't do a top 5 list for this. I know the quarterback that's under the most pressure. Pressure is a very ambiguous term, so we'll see how everyone defines it. But there's like at least 8 to 10 quarterbacks that I have that are under legitimate pressure entering this season. We'll get into all those on the other side. Also, Aaron Bronstetter, who does a great job as an MMA reporter for Sportsnet, will join us 25 minutes from now to talk about Chandler and McGregor getting postponed. It will not happen at the end of the month, June 29th, at UFC 303.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Yo, how we doing? Welcome in. Hour number 2 of our radio program on this beautiful Friday. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Aaron Bronstetter will join us coming up 20 minutes from now. We will chat to him about the big UFC news. And I hate to say it because I was right, but it's just the truth of the situation. What's that press conference got canceled in Ireland a few weeks ago where they were going to promote the McGregor-Chandler fight? I said this fight's not going to happen. And there was a lot of pessimism after that. Then there was some optimism. And then there's been some social media out there that was like looking and making it look like the fight was going to happen. But I made it clear for the last two and a half weeks that until I see Conor McGregor step foot in that octagon, I was not anticipating that we were actually going to see that fight on June 29th. And then it comes out yesterday. Dana White releases a video that McGregor's out because of an injury. Ariel Helwani was watching his YouTube chat late last night. Great job by Ariel. And Ariel was saying that he won't disclose what the injury is, but he says it's not a severe injury. And that means that Conor McGregor, from what he was told, is out at least 2 months. So we'll see when they reschedule it. Now, my question is, how legitimate is the injury, number one? And what I mean by that is, was the injury caused because McGregor wasn't in the best of shape? Are they maybe saying this is a minor injury and they're using that so you could take this fight more seriously? Because even though McGregor hasn't been in the octagon in quite some time, it didn't seem like from some of the videos and social media, and sometimes social media is misleading, that you were seeing a Conor McGregor that he really gave a rat's ass about this fight. So I have no expectations the rest of the way for McGregor. I also said that, though, and felt that way 2 years ago. Like 2 Super Bowls ago when we had Dana White on the show live in person, and this was talked about, how we were eventually going to see a McGregor-Chandler fight. I said to Dana, I don't see how Conor's going to win that fight. And I'm not a UFC expert. I'm a casual fan that has become more of a fan in the last few years. And I was really looking forward to, at the end of the month, UFC 303. And they're going to add Alex Pereira on the card, and he's just phenomenal no matter what weight class he fights in. That dude is one of the craziest, most freakish athletes I've ever seen. But for Conor McGregor, I had no expectation for him a few years ago, and I'm not going to have any more expectation now with how long of an absence it's been for the notorious Conor McGregor trying to make a return to the octagon. So Aaron Bronstetter will join us coming up in about 10 to 15 minutes from now. Let's get back into the quarterbacks, though, This is with Trevor Lawrence getting a $275 million extension, $200 million guaranteed over 5 years. We've talked about the Tua angle of this, the Dak angle of this, the Jordan Love angle of this, and the Trevor Lawrence Jacksonville Jaguars angle as well. When we just go division by division, who's the quarterback in the division with the most amount of pressure on them? So, Samter, I'll start off with the AFC East. You got Josh Allen, you got Tua Tagovailoa, you got Aaron Rodgers, and you got Drake May, which I don't even think Drake May will start the first few weeks of the season. I hope he doesn't start until November. Now, pressure could be determined in many different ways. The pressure to win this year, pressure to get the next contract, pressure because your career's winding down. But I think this one's easy. To me, it's a conversation. You could argue there's pressure on Josh Allen because now people are out on his team, but we still know he's a top 3 quarterback in the league. This is between Tua and it's between Aaron Rodgers. And even though Tua's playing for that next contract, and maybe he'll get in the next few weeks, we'll see. It's definitely Aaron Rodgers here because there's a short window. You got a year or two left. This guy is a top 10, top 15 quarterback of all time. He's going to Canton, Ohio. I get his legacy in that part is already established, and you could already start making his bust in Canton, Ohio. But only one Super Bowl win, how early in his career it came, and then all the other attention and drama that follows Aaron Rodgers. I think Rodgers is the quarterback under the most pressure in the AFC East. Yourself?
See, he might be under the most pressure from the outside world, but I don't think he's feeling the pressure. I think Aaron Rodgers' mind is halfway out the door. I think the person feeling the most pressure is Tua.
Okay. Let's go to the AFC North. Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, and Joe Burrow. We could push Burrow aside. You could argue there's pressure to win while you have all your pieces there. But we know how great Joe Burrow is. Right now he's the second best quarterback in football. This one's tough. There's a tremendous amount of pressure on Russell Wilson because Russ could be playing himself out of the Hall of Fame. And you got Justin Fields right behind you. Lamar Jackson, there's pressure to win a Super Bowl, but I think Lamar Jackson, no matter what he does in the regular season, is going to get the Giannis treatment, is going to get the Celtics treatment as well. Like Giannis won a few MVPs. That's why I use that example. And they were coming up short in the playoffs. And even when they had a great regular season, no one praised him for it until he got that championship. For the Celtic analogy, I think that fits just in the current state where no one cared what the Celtics did this year in the regular season or even early on in the postseason. It's until they get that Larry O'Brien trophy, and that could happen tonight with them being up 3-0. We know they're getting the Larry O'Brien trophy, whether it's in Game 4, Game 5, it doesn't matter to me. The Celtics weren't going to get that universal praise until that happened. I think it's the same way with Lamar Jackson. So I think the most pressure is on Deshaun Watson. The team gave all those picks up for you. They gave you the fully guaranteed contract. And so far, Mike, like you look at Deshaun Watson, the last time we saw him be great in a top 7 conversation was 2020. He was out all of 2021, suspended for most of 2022, and last year only played 6 games. This is a major year for Deshaun Watson. So I think he is the quarterback in the AFC North under the most pressure. You?
I honestly think all 4 of those quarterbacks could be like top 10 in the NFL with most pressure. If you were ranking all the quarterbacks in the league, every one of them has a lot of pressure. For me, I think it's Russell Wilson.
Okay.
Because for him, it's both legacy and starting job. Because, I mean, if he's on a one-year deal, basically, he's got Justin Fields right behind him, and he has his legacy on the line. So he's got pressure for a lot of different things. Perception, legacy, all that. So I think it's Russell Wilson.
And also, if he doesn't play well this year and keep the starting job, you know, he can maybe latch on and start a few games somewhere, but he's not going to be the guy going in from the start ever again. AFC South, it's not Stroud coming up the year that he just had. There's, I wouldn't say pressure on Anthony Richardson, but intrigue. Will Levis, they've done enough where you have to go succeed, but it's on Trevor Lawrence now. You know, I think this is Trevor Lawrence even before yesterday, but you just intensify the pressure when you give this guy $200 million guaranteed, $275 million overall on that contract and the 5-year extension when he's had a bad year, a good year, and then a disappointing year. So I don't even think this one's debatable, Mike.
Yeah,
Trevor.
100%.
Let's go to the AFC West. Mahomes, right? If he doesn't win a Super Bowl this year, bum. Absolute bum.
I mean, he does have pressure. Listen, if he wants to chase Brady, if he wants to catch Brady,
stop.
It does matter. But no. He's probably the last on this list.
I thought it was interesting, though, at the Brady ceremony. Like, they had a bunch of videos that were recorded from other players in the league. So, like, when they show Eli Manning, I expect Eli to get booed because he beat Brady twice in the Super Bowl. I was a little surprised that Manning got, Mahomes got very loud boos. because I guess that was just more of a support of Brady because that's now the new guy and people are already saying he's better than Brady, which is crazy right now. But that was kind of the response from the Foxborough faithful. So you got O'Connell with the Raiders or Gardner Minshew. The Broncos, you got Bo Nix. The Chargers, you got Justin Herbert. See, I just don't have any expectation for the Raiders or Broncos quarterback, and clearly I was joking with Mahomes. It's Herbert because you had the excuse for all those years with Staley. Now you get a more than competent coach, a great coach in Jim Harbaugh. There is no more excuse to the coaching for Justin Herbert. So for me in the AFC West, the quarterback under the most pressure is Justin Herbert, Mike.
Agreed, 100%.
NFC East, Jaden Daniels, year one. Daniel Jones, last year with the team probably. Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott. Mike, I'll let you go first on this one. Because I really think this is a two-person conversation. I think it's fascinating to see, do you think there's more pressure on Jalen Hurts, or do you think there's more pressure on Dak Prescott going into this season?
This is a tough one.
I think this is the toughest one.
Yeah, and honestly, I think Daniel Jones is right up there too because.
But does anyone expect him to bounce back? Like this is last chance. He's not going to be good.
No, nobody expects it, but that's also part of. I mean, we went through the list of highest paid quarterbacks, and he's right in there. So obviously, he has to perform. No one expects it, but I agree. It's still between Hurts and Dak. I think it has to be Dak.
Okay.
Because Dak has the contract situation.
And Hurts already got
paid. More to play for, but I think Dak has the contract thing to worry about as well.
See, it's funny, and this is why I say pressure is very ambiguous. I actually think it's Jalen Hurts because he already got paid. They had that great season 2 years ago. He individually outplayed Mahomes in the Super Bowl, even though they lost the game. He was the best player on the field that day. The following year, they're 10-1, and then that locker room just crumbled, and that team crumbled down the stretch. The Eagles, I have more of a belief in the Eagles than the Cowboys, so that intensifies the pressure for me on Jalen Hurts. The NFC North, Goff going for a Super Bowl. Love showing that last year. The second half of the season is who he is. You got Sam Darnold or J.J. McCarthy in Minnesota. And then you got Caleb Williams with the Bears. This is another tough one. And I hate to put pressure on the year one guy, but for me it is Caleb Williams because he's that transcendent generational talent. He doesn't have to be a star this year, but you can't walk away this season having questions if he could be the guy for the Bears. Like, you just have to be good. You got to be serviceable. And if you're that, then people will say, okay, they could go improve. But that's a team that has a legitimate case to go like 9-8 and make the playoffs. They put him in an excellent position, which Chicago never does with their quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think the expectations are high, but and he has good receivers, but I honestly think that if they go like 6-11, and he has...
They were 7-10 last year.
Yeah, but like, I mean, even if...
And they got better.
With Justin Fields, who's not a slouch. I mean,
but he's not Caleb Williams.
No, but
and you don't have the wide
Williams
receivers.
Is a rookie also. It just takes time. C.J. Stroud is a...
But timing is everything.
But
timing is everything. And this is a what have you done for me lately league and copycat league. And Stroud just had that season and Williams supposed to be the dude. I don't think they could go 6 wins this year and people feel okay with that.
See, as long as he comes in there and he's not Zach Wilson,
That's
then
a pretty low
I think
bar.
he's fine. As long as he walks away from the season and people see promise, I don't think it matters what the record is. Unless the team is just so... But if the team's really bad, you can blame Eberflus, you can blame the defense, you can blame this or that. But if he comes in there and he looks competent and he shows promise... If you remember, like, Peyton Manning, his first year, the team was pretty bad, and he, like, set the rookie record for interceptions. But everyone saw that promise. Everyone saw how good he could be. So no one was freaking out that he set the rookie record. So I think it's the same for Caleb Williams. So I see the pressure, but no, for me, it's Jordan Love. And I think Jordan Love might be facing...
Not Goff.
Yeah. What? No, Goff is up there, too. For sure, because
just got the deal.
More because of the collapse. But I feel like Detroit, they're just happy with anything. Now, maybe expectations are a little bit higher.
Oh, no, they expect to win a Super Bowl this year.
For
and
sure.
I was actually impressed with the Lions last year. That Lomas Brown came on the show before the season started, and he said just making the playoffs isn't good enough. He said they got to go win a playoff game. And I kind of raised my eyebrows. I said, what the heck is this guy talking about? Just make the playoffs. It's a success.
Yeah.
And he ended up being right.
Yeah.
So I think they have a higher expectation now because they haven't done it
right.
than what we think just because, they've been bad for so long. They're just happy to be there. Detroit's not just happy to be there. They're going to bite off your kneecap. No pun intended.
100%. I see that for sure. But I feel like Jordan Love, again, has a multi-layered kind of pressure. Pressure to succeed, but he also has that contract pressure too. Now, it sounds like Gutekunst is going to kind of maybe give him that deal before the
really
season
has no
starts.
leverage. He's gotta have to.
It feels like he's getting the deal no matter what. But like a guy who sat for 2 years, now he's playing really well. But like again, we talk about this all the time. Kevin Harlan was on the show halfway through the year, being like, "We're not sure if this is going to be our guy as a Packer fan," and then he showed out that last half of the year and in the playoffs. But like he's really only shown us anything that for a half a season. So he has pressure to show that last year wasn't a fluke, that he's legitimately that guy.
All right, well, I got to get through the next two divisions quickly because I got to get to Aaron. NFC South, I think I would have said Kirk Cousins before they drafted Michael Penix Jr., but since they drafted Michael Penix Jr., we know Michael Penix Jr. is going to be their guy. It's just a question of when he's going to be the guy. I think it's Bryce Young because Bryce Young's number 1 overall pick. They gave up all those resources to get him. Bryce Young's got to show me something here in year number 2.
Yeah, I would put Bryce Young right up there, but I think it's still Kirk Cousins. Because of Penix being there and coming off the injury and the weapons, it's Kirk Cousins.
And then the NFC West. Oh, boy. I have no belief in Geno. Stafford already won a Super Bowl. This is a Brock Purdy, Kyler Murray situation. You could argue either or. I'll argue Brock Purdy just because that's a team that's been close. First 2 years of start, he gets them to the Super Bowl. Now you got to finish the job.
I agree. I think Kyler has pressure, but it's all about Purdy. Purdy has to go get over the hump.
Now, just give me the quarterback under the most pressure entering this season because mine's Deshaun Watson.
To me, it's either Love or Dak. I'm going to go Love.
Okay.
Jordan Love.
Jordan Love. After having a successful second half to the season, you're now saying he's under the most pressure, and I go with Deshaun Watson, who hasn't been good since 2020. All righty, will Conor McGregor ever return to the octagon? He was supposed to return at the end of the month. That's not happening anymore. That fight has been postponed. They say they will reschedule it. Even if they do reschedule it, will we ever see Conor McGregor make his return? We'll chat some UFC with Aaron Bronstetter next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Listening to the Infinity Sports Network.
So a few weeks ago, I was in Newark, New Jersey at UFC 302, and Dana White reveals that he was going to Ireland for a Conor McGregor, Michael Chandler press conference to get everyone set for, at the end of the month, UFC 303. And then shortly after that, we found out that that press conference wasn't going to happen. And the moment that occurred, I said on the air, I hope I'm wrong about this, but I'll believe Conor McGregor returns to the octagon to fight Michael Chandler at the end of the month when I see it. Last night, we find out that that fight is getting moved because Conor McGregor has an injury. And I was listening to Ariel Helwani last night, who said that Conor's going to be out for at least 2 months. So let's welcome in a great MMA reporter for Sportsnet, and that's Aaron Bronstetter, kind enough to join us for a few minutes on the Zach Gelb Show. Aaron, appreciate you doing this. Thanks so much. How you been?
Hey, my pleasure, Zach. Yeah, things are going great. I'm sorry that I have to do this portably today, but, I'm a very important guy. I got lots of stuff going on around town.
No, you are a big deal. There is no doubt about that, and I'm elated that we were able to get you on the show today for a few minutes. So give me your reaction through all the ups and downs, through all the skepticism, and then some optimism, and then pessimism. When this was announced last night by Dana White that McGregor Chandler is getting moved, and we'll find out eventually when that's going to be, what was your first thought?
See, I thought I was only a big deal in my own mind. I'm glad that other people were able to confirm my own biases. But so last night, obviously, we find out that the event is off. It had been trending that way for a couple of days leading up to yesterday. And of course, the UFC have to come up with contingencies. This wasn't an event that they could cancel. It's International Fight Week. They've got their Hall of Fame inductions that week. They've got UFC X, which is their fan conference. Just too many things at stake for them to just outright cancel the event. And I think that based on the amount of time that they had to work with, this is probably the best that they could have possibly done. Getting a guy as big as Alex Pereira on the event, I think is just a huge coup for them. And Yuri Prochazka is going to make for a great dance partner. We already saw that fight back in your neck of the woods in November at MSG, and now we get to see it again. I think that this is probably the best that they could have done under those circumstances. But yeah, Conor McGregor nursing some sort of injury that's going to keep him out of action for at least a month or two until they can figure out where they're going to put him. And it seems like they might even do an entirely new event centered around Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler, a fight that everybody's been waiting for some time. Personally, if it were me, I'd put it in this Las Vegas Sphere. It's their only time they're going to be doing an event at the Sphere. It looks like one and done. Why not have your biggest star headline that fight, and you can sink even more money into it? It seems like that's going to be a losing endeavor for them, but it's something that they really want to do by holding an event in the Sphere.
And that event would come your way on September 14th, the Sphere, if they elect to go that. I was actually thinking, Aaron, and I know, hey, we had to wait long enough for this, so what else is a few more months? UFC usually comes back to Madison Square Garden in November. What about throwing that fight together at the Garden?
I think that would be a home run. You know what? Wherever you have this fight, it's going to be a home run. I just think that they already have plans for MSG. It seems like that's going to be John Jones, Stipe Miocic. They've been talking about that all year. I don't think that they could load that card up to that kind of extent. Although I'm sure it would be a blessing for the folks out your way. And hey, I'm only an hour flight from New York myself. It would certainly be great to have that fight at MSG at the Mecca. But if I had to guess, I don't think that's where it ends up.
Do you actually think this fight will actually happen? Because until I see McGregor walk back into the octagon, I just keep on thinking that this fight is just not going to happen, unfortunately.
I think a lot of people are of that belief. I tend to be more of an optimist than a pessimist. I'm a glass half full guy. I think that this fight does happen in the next 2 or 3 months. I think they're going to put it back together and figure out a way to make this thing happen.
Aaron Bronstetter here with us, does a great job covering the UFC for Sportsnet. When we get to the Michael Chandler component of this, I feel so bad for the dude because I think this is the part that gets lost. We're all focusing on when McGregor returns. Michael Chandler has been waiting and not getting any other fights or taking any other fights.
Yeah, I kind of drew the parallels today on social media between the state of Alex Pereira's career and the state of Michael Chandler's career. If you look at the last time Michael Chandler fought, that was at MSG. 2 fights later, Alex Pereira wins the middleweight championship, goes on to then lose the middleweight championship, moves to light heavyweight, wins the light heavyweight championship, becoming a 2-division champion, headlines UFC 300, now headlining International Fight Week. All of that has happened in the time since Michael Chandler last fought. And it's not like he's been injured or anything. He's just been sitting around waiting for this Conor McGregor fight. And I think that if I was advising Michael Chandler, I'd do the same. I'd say, hey, listen, this is the fight that we got to stick around and wait for and hold our breath that it's going to take place. If it doesn't take place, we took a risk. It's, we're kind of in the late stages of our career here, but I think that Michael Chandler has a very good chance of beating Conor McGregor. And, if that does happen from there, I think that there's so many more big fights ahead of him after that, even though he is in the latter stage of his career.
Yeah, even when McGregor gets back to the octagon, I said this to Dana White 2 years ago, and I was talking to him at the Super Bowl. Like, I have no expectation for him, and I think Chandler would win that fight. And he goes, that's why you end up having the fight, because he'll have other people tell him he thinks McGregor is going to win. What can you expect whenever McGregor finally does get back to the octagon, if maybe it is in a few months?
I was just asked the same question earlier today, and I don't really know what to expect, right? Because so much has happened since he suffered that, pretty much a catastrophic injury in the cage. And since then, how much has he been training? He's been in movies. He's been launching companies. I'm very curious to see, like we all are, what version of Conor McGregor we are going to see in that fight. And I think that that's what makes his return so intriguing, is that we don't really know. I mean, stylistically, I think he matches up well against Michael Chandler if we're talking about the best version of those two guys. But what version of McGregor are we going to see? Because I know that Michael Chandler's been training pretty much nonstop the last year and a half, right, to get ready for this fight. So I think he's going to be the more prepared fighter, but Conor McGregor does have that great equalizer in that left hand.
Do we have any clarity? Do you have any insight on what the actual injury is with McGregor?
I don't. I'm not really able to share what I do know in regards to the injury, and I think that's just in fairness to Conor and his team, that, they go into this fight without his opponent knowing where he might be compromised.
But this is, from what you know, and I respect that answer, this is like a legitimate injury. It just wasn't because he was out of shape and then, maybe tweak something, trying to ram up for this fight a little bit later than probably normal, which is a thought out there.
Yeah, I'm sure, again, that there's some speculation around that, and it's hard to know. It's hard to know why he got injured or how he got injured. Injuries happen all the time in MMA, right? Like, people can tear their ACL sparring with somebody. Jamal Hill just had to pull out of an injury, out of the same fight card with an injury. Who knows how he sustained it? Unless you're in the room, it's really hard to know, unless you're getting really good insight from someone in that camp, exactly why it happened or how it happened. But I don't really have any insight on whether or not that's the reason that it happened. And it would be hard to know either way. The body works the way the body works.
Wrapping up with Aaron Bronstetter, who joins us right now. Does a great job covering UFC, MMA for Sportsnet. So all these alterations to the UFC 303 card, I think the UFC always does a great job with crisis management. And unfortunately, we have to see a lot of that throughout the year just with the nature of the beast. What's your impressions now of this card, even though you have McGregor and Chandler out?
Yeah, I mean, I think really kind of almost the best case scenario played out. To put this kind of a card together in 10 days is not easy. I think that new headliner between Alex Pereira and Yuri Prokazic is going to be fireworks, just like the last fight was. I think it's a good matchup. And I think that the Diego Lopez versus Brian Ortega co-main event is a great co-main event. But the thing that we need to always be cognizant of in these situations is that you're getting a diminished product, so to speak. You're getting guys that are fighting with not as much training as they should be getting going into a fight. But at least in this situation, you're getting both fighters under those circumstances, right? It's not somebody coming in late notice to face somebody who's at a full training camp. So you're going to get them kind of almost at even strength for that reason, which is what makes it kind of interesting. But I'm just hoping that the quality of fight doesn't diminish. I mean, I think one example of this was when Alexander Volkanovski stepped in to face Islam Makhachev the second time around and got finished in the first round because he was coming off the couch, and that can happen. But I think in this circumstance, with both fighters essentially coming off the couch, that perhaps you get a little bit more of a level playing field than something like that, for example.
And I know you got to run. Last thing I'll ask you, were we ever close to actually getting this fight on June 29th with McGregor and Chandler? Because I know there's been a lot of up and down and speculation since that press conference was canceled. And obviously yesterday we found out that the fight wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, the UFC were promoting it like crazy last weekend during their event. And I think that they would probably not do that if they didn't at least have some hope that it was still going to happen and they could keep it together. The fight card almost happened, right? He got injured. So now it's not happening, right? I think at some point in time it was pretty much a done deal, of course. It's signed, you got posters, you got promos. I don't think that the UFC would be, doing all of that if they thought that the fight was going to fall through. But hey, these things happen in mixed martial arts. And the problem with these fights that they build with Conor McGregor is they're not usually that loaded because you rely so much on Conor being that draw that the rest of the card doesn't end up being kind of on par with a fight like that. Usually when you have a championship fight at the top of an international fight week card, you'll have a second championship fight in the co-main event, and you'll have kind of more of a stacked main card. With Conor events, historically, they haven't really done that. So I think that at least in his recent fights, the ones against Poirier, they weren't the most stacked cards. It was just you had your big attraction at the top, almost like a boxing style card. And I think that they had to overcome that hurdle when they were putting this fight back together.
He's Aaron Bronstetter. Does a great job covering MMA for Sportsnet, and he is a big deal. Aaron, appreciate the time. Thanks so much for joining us.
I appreciate your insight on who and who is not a big deal. So thank you, Zach, for having me on.
Trust me, if you weren't a big deal, I would tell you weren't a big deal. But I've been blown away by some of your interactions in these press conferences. So I take notice, even being a casual UFC guy.
Thank you, Zach. I appreciate you.
You got it. There he is, Aaron Bronstetter, joining us on the Zach Gelb Show. I'm disappointed. I can't say I'm surprised. And I expected once that press conference was canceled, and I've been saying it in Sports Minutes, I've been saying it on this show, I didn't think this fight was going to happen at the end of the month. It doesn't seem like, and he's right with what he said about the Stipe John Jones fight, which was supposed to happen last year at November at MSG, and then that fight did not happen because of an injury John Jones suffered. So if they're trying to bring that back in November at MSG, okay, you probably wouldn't double dip with someone like John Jones and Stipe Miocic and also have Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler on that card because you can make them the main event just on their own right and get two big events. But how about that? If you put that in September 14th in the Sphere, and we'll see, I don't know what the injury is with Conor. Ariel Helwani last night said it isn't severe. He'd come on back in 2 months. So that's more than 2 months on September 14th at the Sphere. And that's the fight that Dana White always wanted to have, like that venue at the Sphere when it got created. All he did was obsess over the Sphere, and it's probably going to be a one-time thing at the Sphere, I would think. Who knows? But just from some of the speculation that you hear, because it takes a lot to put on a fight there. But I think they're going to try to go big for that event. The only problem is if you do it at the Sphere, and then something happens to McGregor again, or McGregor has 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and you make that the big event at the Sphere, and then it doesn't happen, you get some egg on your face when you're trying to make this thing gold at the Sphere on September 14th. I see, Santer, you've been to the Sphere, so have I. We were both at the same concert, that U2 concert, Super Bowl week, and I get the concerts at the Sphere. I get going to see a movie there. How the heck are they going to do a fight there? I think the fighters who are so locked in, they're probably going to get distracted by all the craziness that they put on in the Sphere. I said this before. This is the first time, maybe since, I don't know if Pharrell would ever say it this way because he probably has. But I don't think the word acid has probably ever been said on the network unless Scott Farrell is hosting a show. Shake it up, CBS Sports Radio, it's Scotty Farrell on the bench. But I've never done acid, but how you get describe what you feel like if you do acid, that's how I imagined it when we were at the Sphere. And to be clear, the only thing we had in our system at the Sphere were a few beers and a few shots. But that was the most trippiest thing I've ever been to, Samter.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be surprised if they're playing the stuff while the guys are fighting. Like maybe during
the intros?
Like during the intros, for sure.
UFC
they would have a
intros
whole
aren't
thing.
that big of a deal.
Say it again?
The UFC intros, it's not like wrestling. It's not like
Yeah.
boxing. You know, outside of, I think it's Michael Page, I want to say his name was. Like, he had like a big intro. Pereira has a cool intro, but they're usually rather quick, those introductions.
Well, so I'm thinking the intros in between rounds, maybe they'll play a few like highlights from the round. They'll obviously play like the post-fight interviews and things along those lines. And then there's always time between fights. There's what,
Yeah.
15, 20 minutes between fights. So they'll have some stuff there as well. But I would be surprised if while the fighters are fighting, you're going to have this whole sphere, live action. I mean, maybe they would, but like that would be really distracting.
Now, I don't know how they're going to do this, but you would think that they would have the fight that's going on, like on how you have it on the big screen on the walls of the sphere. And I think that would be distracting just because how crazy that is. Now, I guess once you get in the octagon, you're trying to rip someone's head off, that the focus really isn't anything around you. You're so locked in on what's in front of you. But it does feel like a little trippy when you're in there. And I wonder if it feel trippy at a sporting event. I will say that. So, yeah, like you got that same sense when you were at the Sphere.
Oh, yeah, very trippy.
It was very tough to concentrate when we were there.
Oh, yeah. U2 was, an all-time great 80s band, 90s band. I was barely paying attention to what they were saying or doing. I was just staring at the wall.
Well, that could be for multiple reasons. You were trying to get the Green Day. You were trying to make sure we got out of there, so we went to the Green Day concert after that. So here's where I'm at with the McGregor-Chandler fight. I will believe that fight's going to happen. Wherever it happens, when McGregor is walking out to fight Michael Chandler and he steps foot in that octagon. I keep on hearing this fight's going to happen. This fight's going to happen. Then we get a date. Then there is an injury. You know, I know it sounds like I'm skeptical about the injury, but we don't know what the injury is. I know they don't want to reveal that because they want to protect the fighters, but it seems like it's not a severe injury. So he just tweaked something and then, all right, we waited this long, so let's wait a few more months. You know, maybe that's a possibility, but my eyebrow was raised on this one. And you hate to question the legitimacy of an injury, especially with how intense these fighters are. But even when this fight does happen, I think you're going to watch it and go, okay, Conor McGregor's cooked. That's just the way I feel about it. We'll do onside, offside when we return. Sam's got some questions for me. I will give you some answers. But first up with the latest Infinity Sports Network update, here he is, the Ackman, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Well, the NBA season can come to an end tonight as the Celtics will have a chance to sweep the Mavericks up 3-0. Joe Mazzulla was thrown into the fire last year as a first-time head coach at age 34 and caught heavy criticism when his team lost in the conference finals. He adjusted quickly and became a learner just as quickly. And tonight can become the youngest coach ever to win a title, but one of those things that he's learned, stay humble.
Blocking out the noise, like at the end of the day, we're the most vulnerable in this. And so we have to remain that. We have to remain a sense of urgency. We have to have an understanding of our environment, and we have to know that we're just as vulnerable as anybody else is in this situation, and how we handle that will determine our fate.
The Celtics survived without Kristaps Porzingis in Game 3. He remains uncertain for tonight. The Commanders have signed the second pick overall, Jaden Daniels, to a 4-year deal with over $37 million guaranteed. At Wrigley right now, in the top of the ninth, the Cubs trail the Cardinals by a score of 3-0. At the U.S. Open second-round action, Ludwig Goldberg is your leader at 5 under par, one shot better than Bryson DeChambeau, Thomas Dietrich, and Patrick Cantlay, as well as Matthew Pavone. I'm Rich Ackerman.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Check out our new and improved website at infinitysportsnet.com. That's infinitysportsnet.com.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Breaking news on the Zach Gelb Show.
So we have some news for you. Earlier today, it was revealed, and this is not the news, that Gisele Bündchen and the jiu-jitsu guy no longer a couple because the guy that was teaching Giselle the jiu-jitsu moves and then some other things reportedly was a little sensitive to the spotlight from the Tom Brady roast. And from there, they ended up splitting. Now, Samter, it doesn't really make sense to me when you're dating Giselle Bundchen and you're replacing Tom Brady in that dating department that you didn't want the spotlight, but there we are. Then I also saw that former Patriot Danny Amendola is reportedly dating a 23-year-old SI model, Xandra Powell. Oh, hello, she is gorgeous. But here is the breaking big news. I guess everyone was talking or everyone was there with their significant others. Well, Giselle and the jiu-jitsu match would not be at the Tom Brady whole situation. But Bill Belichick, according to TMZ, has a new love interest in his life. TMZ Sports has learned he's dating 24-year-old former competitive cheerleader Jordan Hudson. Sources close to the situation tell us the two have been romantic for a while now, becoming an item shortly after the ex-New England Patriots head coach called off his longtime relationship with Linda Holiday. How about that, Samter? That dog, Billy B, Billy Belichick. You know, we're on to the next love of my life. He is no longer a couple. We knew that with Linda Holiday, his longtime girlfriend. And now he is moving on to a 24-year-old ex-cheerleader. According to one of Hudson's former cheerleading teammates, Hudson first met the 72-year-old on a flight from the Boston area bound for Florida way back in 2021 and bonded over a philosophy project the student athlete had been working on. Are you kidding me? We're told they swapped contact information after landing and stayed friendly through the ensuing months, discussed her schoolwork and the X's and O's of her cheerleading routines. I'm sure they did a little bit more than that. One source said, though, that soon after Belichick split with Holiday, which we were told took privately during the 2022 season, they became more than just friends. That's what TMZ said. The two kept things on the low, only briefly being spotted here and there. But our sources say Hudson quietly supported Belichick at his games at Gillette throughout the 2022 and 2023 season. But just recently, they decided to become more public with things. Bill Belichick, I am disappointed in you. Not because of who you're dating. Job well done, Bill. But you were with this mystery girl and keeping this relationship a secret through the 2022 and 2023 season. I don't think his biggest interest was football, Samter. And a guy who is the greatest coach of all time, or one of the greatest coaches of all time, missed the playoffs in 2022 and 2023. And there was some questionable decision-making. He employed two bozos to run the offense. One who was a defensive coordinator and one who was known for a special teams coordinator when he was in New England, and Joe Judge and Matt Patricia. And obviously Joe Judge was the coach of the Giants. I think, Samter, Bill Belichick, his main priority was not the Patriots. And if I'm being fair, it's kind of tough to blame him when you're 72 years old and you're dating a 24-year-old cheerleader. Seemed like Bill had other interests there, Samter.
You know, I was a little bit more intrigued when I thought that she was a Patriots cheerleader, but she's not.
Ooh, that would have been controversial.
She wasn't a former Patriots cheerleader. She just was a cheerleader competition cheerleader. And apparently, back in March, he went to one of her cheerleading competitions. And I see on TMZ, Bill Belichick attends cheerleading competition in D.C., forgoes NFL Combine, but at the time he was no longer a coach. And it's interesting that he went there. Sources say there's no idea as to why he was at this competition. Now we know.
You know, that's a pretty good handstand. I'd like to see more of that. Can we see the cartwheel in the bedroom? You know, we're on to the forward roll.
I don't need this.
We're on to the forward roll.
No.
We're on to the forward roll. No. We're on to the forward roll. How about TMZ? I think this is the best part of the story. That they originally bonded while passing what in the airport, I was saying? And then Bill took a great interest into like a project? Like what? This, come on. Who wrote this article at TMZ? Bill clearly knew what he was doing from the jump. Let me just make sure I read this correctly. According to one of Hudson's former cheerleading teammates, Hudson first met the 72-year-old on a flight from the Boston area bound for Florida way back in 2021 and bonded over a philosophy project the student athlete had been working on. Oh, so they're bonding over philosophy? This sounds like maybe one of those websites where like drawing up the script to this. You're telling me Bill Belichick, it's bizarre enough for Bill to have interest in like a philosophy project. But the two of these, these two people first bonded over a philosophy project when, what was that? Some like noise that just played in the through the board. But you're telling me that the two of them bonded over a philosophy project? And that's how they first having this conversation? Bill clearly was in the airport, saw a good-looking girl. She was like, oh, that's Bill Belichick. They started talking. Oh, what do you do? I have a philosophy project. And because Bill knows like about everything, he started talking about whatever philosophy project they were doing. And then he took a big interest in her cheerleading career. Discussed her schoolwork and the X's and O's of her cheerleading career. So she's 24 now. So like this is when she was 22. Jeez Louise, good for Bill Belichick.
I will say this.
A little creepy, but good for Bill.
Between this and seeing him sneaking out of someone's house after a one-nighter, Bill Belichick's got my respect. Now, here's something like...
Well, obviously you don't know about some of the stories when he was with the Giants.
No.
Yeah, it's a long history of Bill, let's just say, sleeping around.
Wow, that's surprising to me coming from a guy who seems so buttoned up. Now, I don't really...
You got to unbutton eventually.
Yeah, this is true. I don't want to think about him unbuttoning or buttoning anything, but I didn't realize this. I didn't really catch this at the roast of Tom Brady, but here's Gronk making reference.
No way.
But, Coach, you used to talk about Foxborough High School when we sucked. But now I know why you were so obsessed with Foxborough High School. You were scouting your new girlfriend.
I didn't catch it at the time.
Wait. That's hysterical. Now, I remember Bill would always say, the guys at Foxborough High are going to come take your job. They could run this play better than you idiots. Like that what he would say to his players. And Julian Edelman gave that big, passionate speech how, Bill, you can't even get hired by Foxborough bleeping High. Gronk said, see, that's the beauty of Gronk. We're all like, Gronk's a lot more smarter than what people think. A lot smarter than what people think. But we look at Gronk as like this big meathead, like dummy that's just happy to be there, like happy-go-lucky guy, like can't take anything that he said serious. He gives you the answer to the test there, and no one took that as, is Bill dating someone a little bit younger? It's kind of crazy. Where'd you see that?
This is in that same TMZ article.
Oh, my God. That's wild.
Yeah.
Think about this. Giselle and the jiu-jitsu guy, done. Danny Amendola dating an SI model, not surprising. Bill Belichick dating a 24-year-old. And they met in an airport talking about a philosophy project. Jeez Louise.
And Edelman isn't terrible either when it comes to the ladies.
Julian? No, he's a good-looking dude.
He does well for himself.
Is he dating someone now? I don't know.
He's had a laundry list of high-quality catches.
Yeah. You want to talk about things that would never happen today that used to happen back in the day? You remember when ESPN SportsCenter did the Derek Jeter dating diamond, and they put all the girls Jeter has dated, maybe sent them a baseball, and Jeter claims that's not true, on the diamond as if it was a depth chart. Could you imagine tuning into sport? I could hear, the cancel culture and Deadspin right now. Oh, SportsCenter anchor makes insensitive joke about Derek Jeter's girlfriends or ranks his girlfriends. That'd be crazy. Man, Bill Belichick. And Robert Kraft's married to someone who's really younger now. I think she's like a doctor or something like that. Let's see. Yeah, Dana Blumberg. They got married in 2022. So let's see. Dana Blumberg's age. She's 50 years old. She's 33 years younger than Robert Kraft. Man, you got a good early bird special with Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick these days. I may start joining Bill and Robert for dinner just to see who they're talking to, for crying out loud.
Can you see those guys at the clubs sitting at a table getting bottle service?
Kraft, yes. Bill, no. Party. Yo soy fiesta, right, Gronk? I'm dating some girl that graduated from Foxborough High like 8 years ago. We're on to the forward roll. We're on to the cartwheel. Coming on back.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity.
My mind is blown. It is the Zach Gelb Show. TMZ reporting that Bill Belichick, as we were talking about in the last segment, is now dating a 24-year-old, and they met on a flight and bonded over the girl's philosophy project, because I guess at the time she was still in college. So do me a favor one more time here, Samter. Let me hear Rob Gronkowski one more time. This was at the roast. Rob Gronkowski on Netflix when he brought up Bill Belichick's new girlfriend, who is significantly younger than the hoodie. Go ahead.
But, Coach, you used to talk about Foxborough High School when we sucked. But now I know why you were so obsessed with Foxborough High School. You were scouting your new girlfriend.
So the best part, and we couldn't play it because it has a curse in it. Afterwards, Nikki Glazer, who's doing the roast, he goes, but you know what the bleeped up part is? Is that you're not dating someone like Nikki. You should be, let's say, knowing Nikki a little bit more because she's closer in age to what you are. So, man, there were some other words that I will tweet out. I'll tweet out the whole Gronk video that TMZ just put out there. But I didn't have that on my bingo card today, Samter. I knew eventually at one point we would talk about Giselle and her boyfriend breaking up, who, that's a crazy story in its own right. Reportedly, he broke up with her because he didn't like the extra attention from the roast. You know, that's a great play by Brady. You know, supposedly Giselle, right, allegedly, Giselle was doing these jiu-jitsu classes, and then she started to get romantically involved with this guy, and her marriage was basically ending anyway. And then they were dating, and this guy didn't want to be put in the spotlight? If you don't want to be put in the spotlight, Samter, I don't know, maybe you don't date Giselle Bundchen when she was just married to the greatest quarterback of all time?
If you can date Giselle Bundchen, you date Giselle Bundchen. You don't worry about the spotlight. You just focus on the lady. All right? You don't, I mean, I get it. Maybe after time and you've had your fun and it's just not worth it anymore, but you don't turn down that chance, right?
But
I mean,
the extra
if Beyonce
attention
came
is
over
why,
to you,
hold on, the extra attention is why he's moving on from the relationship. You just said Beyonce?
Like if Beyonce came up to you and was like, you know, Jay-Z's giving me a pass, are you going to say no because you might
Peace
get
hove.
Yeah, like you're not going to say no because like you might get some
Please
extra
allow
attention.
me to reintroduce myself. That's
Not
what
going to
I would
happen.
say. Well, I know it's not going to happen.
No, I mean not going to happen. Like you're not going to say no to Giselle because you're worried. You don't worry about
crap. But that's not why I would break up. Like, let's say if Jay-Z and Beyonce got a divorce, and then for whatever reason it is, Beyonce's like, I want to date this schmuck on the radio, and that schmuck happens to be me, and we're dating, and then Jay-Z does a roast, or they do a roast of Jay-Z, and I don't know, let's just say for argument's sake, Kanye said something about me, and, you know, Beyonce dating some dope on the radio, and then there's all this extra attention on me. Is that the reason why I'm telling Beyonce we have to split? We have to lickety split here? We need to no longer have a relationship because I don't want the extra attention? Well, What did I think was going to happen when I started dating Beyonce in this very, very hypothetical, which I wish was true scenario?
I'm not saying that the roast was the end-all, be-all, but like when you have paparazzi outside your... Well, it may have been a factor, but I'm sure it's more like when you have cameras outside your apartment following you wherever you go.
I'm waving to them. I'm doing the worm. Hey, I'm sleeping with Giselle. That's what I would be doing if I'm this jiu-jitsu master.
Eventually, it probably wears on you. And listen, this guy's a jiu-jitsu master. He's probably had success with the ladies for a very long time. So, yes, Giselle's fantastic, but he could probably get similar...
I don't know. Similar to Giselle, she's like one of the most popular models ever.
Sure, but Giselle's what now? She's probably in her 40s.
She still looks very good.
But, this guy can trade it in for maybe like a younger model.
Trade it in. Keep it easy there, Spank, all right?
Just saying.
Giselle is 43. Now, let's see. Who is this jiu-jitsu teacher? Giselle. Let's get this guy's name. Let's see how old he is. Joachim Valenti? Jacques Valenti, I believe this is. Let's welcome in. What are we doing here, guys? Let's make sure that the board is not up if we're going to edit stuff during the show. Let's see. Jacques Valenti age. He's 35 years old out of 2024. So that's not that big of an age gap, 35, 43.
No, but if you're 35, you can get a 25. I mean, listen, if you're 72, you can get a 24. Yeah, exactly.
He's dating a girl that just graduated college. Wild. Wait. So I'm not great at math. I'm going to pull up my calculator. Belichick 72. This girl's 24. That's a 48-year age difference. Santa? 48? Now, Robert Kraft age. He's 83. Oh my God. Well, his wife's only 50, so I could do that in my head. 33. Who would have thought Bill Belichick's next girlfriend, there would be a wider age gap with Bill and his girlfriend compared to Robert Kraft and his girlfriend, or now wife. That's just wild. Anyway, Santa's got some questions. I'll give you some answers. Let's get to a little onside, offside on this Friday edition of the Zach Gelb Show. Chris Hess, hit it.
Zach's taking on the most polarizing issues in sports. Which side of the line of scrimmage will he end up on?
Offside. Defense number 69.
It's Onsides, Offsides with Zach Gelb.
Alrighty, Samter, what do we got cooking today, pal?
All right, well, after Kirk Cousins accidentally admitted the Falcons had contacted him before free agency began, the NFL obviously investigated and found, quote, improper contact by the team, not just with Cousins, but also with wide receiver Darnell Mooney and tight end Charlie Warner. However, the NFL only docked Atlanta a fifth-round pick and $250,000, a punishment that one team executive said, quote, if I can land the top QB in free agency for that fine, I'll sign up for that any day. End quote. Onside, offside. The NFL's punishment was way too lenient.
So here's the thing. If the Patriots did this when Belichick and Brady were there, since we've been talking about Belichick a lot in this segment, what do you think the punishment would have been, Samter?
Well, seeing that the Dolphins got docked a first-round pick for improper contact with Sean Payton and Tom Brady, I'd imagine the Patriots, depending on who it was, would probably have gotten something similar.
They would have got the death sentence from Goodell.
Well, when you cheat all the time, then of course you're going to...
please, Deflategate was a bunch of nonsense.
Repeat offenders.
Do you think Deflategate was an actual thing? It was a bunch of nonsense. It was a witch hunt by the league. Spygate, different. And the reason why the Patriots got popped for Spygate is they told everyone to stop recording from outside where you were supposed to allowed to record. So they were 10 yards away from where they were allowed to record. Spygate, I'll say that deserved legitimate punishment. Deflategate was the biggest nonsense I've ever covered. So I personally don't have a problem with this. But if you want to look at previous precedent that was set, the NFL's punishment was way too lenient. I'm not bitching about it. We're going to do the draft. And I thought that was a good moment for Roger Goodell. All right, what do we got here? Number 2.
Now, after taking Caleb Williams first overall, the Bears selected Rome Odunze with the 9th pick to join Keenan Allen and DJ Moore in that talented wide receiver room. This week, Odunze set lofty goals for his rookie season, saying that he wants to chase Puka Nakua's rookie record.
100%, and I think that's important for every player to set those goals and strive for the highest of the high. And absolutely, I'm chasing that. I think he's right around 1,500, right, for that rookie season record, and absolutely chasing that. I said this at Washington. I want to hopefully leave the Bears organization better than I found it. And if I have my name on some of those records, I feel like that's just one facet of doing so. So absolutely. Yeah.
Man, I love Rome Odunze. When he came to join us at the Super Bowl, I liked him then. Great personality, good kid. The more I hear him, the more I like him. I hope he does real well.
I'm going to sound like a jerk when I say this. I think you're the only producer at the network that could say someone's a good kid.
Yeah,
you and probably Shep. Like when I hear Hickey or when I hear Boyle or when I hear Elijah Stewart say, "Oh, that person's a good kid," I'm like, "You're not old enough." And if I said someone's a kid, I think that I'd be calling myself out. I think when someone is calling someone a kid, you got to at least be in your late 30s.
I mean, he's 22.
Early 40s.
You can call him a kid.
Not me, though.
I think if you got like 15 years on the guy, you can call him a kid.
Then I can. I'm 29. I turned 30 in August.
You can't call him a kid. No, of course not. No,
but you can.
If he was like 13, you can call him a kid.
I think you're like the only producer here that could refer to Puka Nacua as a kid. So, good feather in the cap for you.
Or Rome Odunze. Now, onside, offside, with that wide receiver room and with Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze.
Oh, Carlos, too. Someone made a good point. Carlos, I don't think Carlos is... He's old.
He's an old soul, too.
Well, excuse me, he's old for what I thought Carlos was. I thought Carlos was like in his early 30s. Carlos is what, 38?
Turns 39 in a couple weeks.
Jeez. All right, what's the question?
So onside, offside, Rome Odunze will have more than 1,000 yards this year as a rookie.
I think he's going to have a very good year, but I'm going offside.
Offside!
Because of where he landed. You have DJ Moore, you got Keenan Allen, and you have Odunze. They could have two 1,000-yard wide receivers. But when you're the rookie, I think it's tougher to get the 1,000 yards in your first season, even though Puka Nacua just had a sensational season with 1,486 receiving yards in his rookie year with 105 receptions.
Now, the Clippers' future is in question as Paul George is set to hit free agency, but the team did lock up Coach Ty Lue with an extension. Now, reports say the Clippers are interested in bringing former Knicks and Rockets head coach and, of course, ESPN analyst Jeff Van Gundy on as an assistant. So onside, offside, considering his pedigree and his resume, Van Gundy should not return to the NBA unless it's as a head coach.
So he's currently involved with like the Celtics. I think he's like in some senior role.
Like a consultant of some sort.
Yeah. I would say onsides because it seems like broadcasting's done for him, and I think he's fine with that. So, I would say offside. Van Gundy shouldn't return to the NBA unless it's a head coaching position. I will go offside here.
Offside.
And the reason why is he has been a head coach in such a long time. I think his head coaching days are behind him. You want to hear a fun thought, Samter? J.J. Redick, James Borrego, Jeff Van Gundy.
That would be perfect for the Lakers.
How about Jeff Van Gundy with the Lakers? How do you like them apples?
It'd be lovely. I think that makes a lot more sense than Borrego, who's who's not like a
big name, household name,
and he's not like highlight like at Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah.
And JJ Redick, who has no experience. I agree.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, I like
Jeff Van Gundy getting revenge for the broadcasting malpractice that has occurred in the last year. Are you going to watch this? It's not a documentary, but the movie about everything that transpired with Donald Sterling that just came out. I think it's on Hulu.
No, but I have seen pictures of the guy they cast to play Steph Curry, and he looks nothing like him. And it's like almost embarrassing that that's who they cast for Steph.
It looks like if it was a fifth cousin, I don't even know if that's a thing, of Steph Curry, who then only instead of like how Steph shoots basketballs, it would be that guy going to a buffet. That's how it looked like. And they said, oh, hey, go play Steph Curry.
Lawrence Fishburne as Doc Rivers, though, that kind of makes sense to me.
Does it? Austin Rivers said that looks nothing like my father. He roasted all the cast here.
I thought Lawrence Fishburne, it looks close enough. And Lawrence Fishburne's a good enough actor that at least it makes sense for Doc.
He claimed, I'm pretty sure, he didn't even know who Doc Rivers was when they pitched him the role.
I mean, you know what? The guy's famous enough that he may not pay any attention to sports. I mean, he is in the Matrix. He took the red pill.
Do you even like sports? All right, let's continue.
Now, the Caitlin Clark media frenzy keeps getting, well, I don't know if this is a word, frenzier? As more and more
I'll allow
online...
it. I said dumber things, probably.
Yeah. As more
what
and
did I say
online...
yesterday?
Yeah.
I was trying to pronounce exemplary.
Yeah, exemplary or something?
Yeah.
Exemplary.
That was just that was like the Porzingis injury. I was like, just say it quickly and get through it.
Yeah, let's just hope people aren't paying attention at that moment. As more and more online influencers use her name to push what some consider racist and sexist agendas, Clark initially refused to engage in the conversation.
It's not something I can control, so I don't put too much thought and time into thinking about things like that. And to be honest, I don't see a lot of it. Like I said, basketball's my job. Everything on the outside, I can't control that, so I'm not going to spend time thinking about that. People can talk about what they want to talk about, but I think for myself, I'm just here to play basketball.
Are you bothered that folks would attempt to weaponize your name in whatever fight they're fighting?
No.
So, after she said those comments earlier yesterday, some WNBA players got upset with her for not standing up against these racist and misogynistic comments.
I'm so confused. Her name is being... How is her name being used...
Her name is being used
to push sexist and racist agendas. How?
There's just, conversations about, people only care about Caitlin Clark because she's white, and things along the lines of, the WNBA sucks, Caitlin Clark is the only reason why anyone cares about it. So they're using her name. It's not about her. They're being racist and sexist and misogynistic.
Gotcha.
And Caitlin Clark is being used as the impetus for it. Right? Caitlin Clark is only being paid attention to because she's white. Caitlin Clark is only interesting because she's white. WNBA sucks, but Caitlin Clark is interesting. And people have been attacking WNBA players, going after Kennedy Carter and Angel Reese for whatever happened.
So people are
calling
saying
them names in defense of Caitlin Clark.
So when the lady on The View said, hey, her pretty privilege and her being white is why people love her, that's the lady on The View saying people are just racist?
That's part of it, and then you have people coming out of the woodworks who are racist, being like, I only care about her because she's white. So there's a lot of different racial aspects of this conversation, and she's kind of the fire starter of this whole thing. Nothing that she's doing, just the coverage of her. And, they first asked her, does this bother you? And she said no.
One person says something now. And I'm not saying the lady on The View, but I'm talking about people in social media say things. And then we run to athletes to get response as if the person on social media has any credibility who ever said that. So it's Clark's responsibility to stand up for fellow WM. No.
Well, but before this part of it, she actually was asked. So she first said that first quote early in the day.
Yeah.
Then WNBA
and it was
players
followed up, right? I saw the initial one. I didn't see the follow-up.
That was the initial one. WNBA players got upset and said that they want her to stand up to these comments again. So somebody else followed up and asked her again about it later yesterday.
I'm not making this point about the racist and sexist comments, but WNBA players who have trashed Caitlin Clark before she's come into the league now want her to stand up for them because of these comments? All right, do we have the cut here?
Yes. So here's the second cut that she was asked later yesterday after the first comment.
Yeah, I think it's disappointing. I think, everybody in our world, deserves the same amount of respect. The women on our league deserve the same amount of respect. So people should not be using my name to push those agendas. It's disappointing. It's not acceptable. But yeah, just treating every single woman in this league with the same amount of respect, I think is just a basic human thing that everybody should do. Just be a kind person and treat them, how you would want to be treated. And I think it's, very simple.
Does she ever have a bad answer?
No,
she handles
she's been
every
well.
answer perfectly.
I agree. She's very media savvy.
I don't even know if she's been coached well. I think she's just a special human being. I really do. So what's the question here?
So onside, offside, it is Clark's responsibility to stand up for her fellow WNBA players.
It is Clark's responsibility to stand up for her fellow WNBA players. No. Offside. I don't think so. I don't think.
Offside.
It's gonna sound terrible that I'm gonna say this. I don't know where these comments are coming from, so it's tough for me to take the comments that her name is being used to push racist and sexist agendas. So her responsibility is to show up, play basketball, and then answer the questions the way that she wants to. If she chooses to defend every other player in the WNBA, then more power to her, but I don't think she has to. I think that's asking way too much because you can't respond to everything said about someone that is this popular where there's going to be tons of people that hate you, tons of people that love you, people that use your name for good and people that use your name for bad. It's just impossible to expect that out of anybody.
It just goes to the same conversation. We had this about Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods. They stayed away from racial, political societal kind of conversations where guys like, Muhammad Ali was right in the center of it. And so there's this conversation. What is a responsibility of an athlete? Do they need to get involved and use their platform to help? Or is their job to play the sport and not worry about it and just be an
I don't
athlete?
think there's a right or wrong answer.
Yeah.
If an athlete wants to show up to work and just do the sport part of it, I don't have a problem with it. If they want to show up to work and if they want to talk about big issues in the world, I don't have a problem with it. I don't. So I don't think there's a right or wrong answer on that one. All righty, finally, let's go.
Okay, last one. Oh, you know what? Hold on. I threw it away because we were late and I thought that we were done.
You want me to
last
read it?
one real quick. Danny Hurley turned down the Lakers and returned to UConn despite a 6-year, $70 million offer from the Purple and Gold. Good for $11.6 million a year. Well, reports now indicate his new deal with UConn comes out to just 6 years, $50 million, which is $8.3 million a year. So onside, offside, Danny Hurley should have held out for more money from the Huskies.
No, and I think people believe, and hey, $8.3 million a year is a very fair salary, but I think people believe like college basketball coaches make a lot more than that. Going into last year, Bill Self made $9.6 million a year, and John Calipari at Kentucky made $8.5 million a year. After that, it was Tom Izzo, I believe, at $6.1 million a year. Bruce Pearl at $5.7 million a year. So they make him one of the highest paid coaches in college basketball. That deal that got reported when we had my conversation take off a little bit when I was saying, like, what did UConn actually offer? Why is he signed the contract? A few people reached out to me and they said that was the number, $8.3 million a year. So that doesn't come to a surprise to me. But should Danny Hurley have held out for more money from UConn? No, he wasn't going to take the $11 million. The Lakers made him a fair offer, but not a Godfather offer. So when you passed up on Kentucky, you should say at $11 million, and then the Lakers deal was 11.6, 11.7. The money, he even said this the other day, the money wasn't really, I'm not saying it was a big point for him, but he agreed on the money like a month ago. So I think that's fine. It was other stuff, NIL, and then, better benefits for his staff as well. So Danny Hurley should have held out for more money from UConn. I would say offside. All right, this is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll take a timeout. We'll come on back after these short messages.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're in the right place. The Infinity Sports Network.
Alrighty, this is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We found out that Trevor Lawrence, he got the bag. He got paid. $275 million is the extension. It is a 5-year contract with $200 million of that being guaranteed. What are the expectations for the Jacksonville Jaguars this season? I'll give you my answer in just a second. But I want to make this abundantly clear. I hope Trevor Lawrence can be the player that he was advertised to be. So far through his NFL career, outside of his second season in the league, so 3 years in, he has not been that player. And you knew it was probably inevitable that the Jaguars were going to pay him. So you can argue, well, Zach, get the deal done now. You save some more money a few years from now because the price is only going up and up and up for quarterbacks. And I get that. But after year one, it being chalked up to Urban Meyer, but he was still a disaster. Year two, he was really good. And then year three, he got injured and then took a step back. You don't have to give this deal now. And I know we all rush, pay quarterbacks. And teams rush to do that because they rather give a big investment and then save a few million a few years from now. But that's backwards to me. I would have used this as a motivational tool for Trevor Lawrence. Trevor, go out there this year, ball out, and we'd be happy to pay you a big number. We'd be happy to basically get you right at the top for the quarterbacks in terms of money. And for them to issue this deal now, it just doesn't make sense to me. I would not have done this. And I'm very consistent on this. Like, I think each scenario is different. Jared Goff, I get where they do that deal now because that's a team that go win a Super Bowl. You don't want to have anyone disturbed in that process. Tua Tagovailoa, I would not give him a deal before week one. Dak Prescott, if they were going to get a deal done, it was going to be before the start of free agency because you wanted to trim his cap number down. They haven't done that yet. So I don't think they're going to get a deal done before the start of the season. You know, Jordan Love, The Packers are tied to him, so they probably should get a deal done now because he's going to get that contract, and his contract's up at the end of the year. But that's one I would like to see a little bit more. But when it comes to Trevor Lawrence, year 1 disaster, year 2 good, year 3 disappointing. Why are you giving him $55 million a year right now? That doesn't make sense to me. He should have proved it this year, showed his worth this year, and then, even if that means I had to pay him $58 million a year instead of the $55, I would be more than happy because that means he balled out on the field. And that's the thing with the Jaguars that I don't get. Why they did this now. Sure, trying to save money for down the road. They're going to give him the contract anyway. What happens if Trevor Lawrence sucks this year? I don't think he will. I think the Jaguars are going to bounce back. But in the AFC South and also in the AFC, they're not a lock to make the playoffs. They're not. And I'll ask this. What are the expectations for the Jaguars this year? Samter, they're paying a quarterback $55 million a year. If you're paying a quarterback $55 million a year, I know that contract won't kick in immediately. But when your quarterback is getting that much money and he's guaranteed on his next deal $200 million and 100-something at signing, you got to make the playoffs bare minimum. And not only make the playoffs, you got to win a playoff game. We saw the Jaguars 2 years ago make the playoffs. They made that comeback, Staley in charge of the choke job, and then they lost to the Chiefs. They gave a valiant effort, but they lost to the Chiefs. Is just making the playoffs good enough for the Jaguars because they missed it a year ago? What's your expectation for the Jaguars for this upcoming season, Samter? Because for me, bare minimum, I'm not saying this will happen. They got to win that division. Actually, not just make the playoffs. They got to win the division, and they got to win a playoff game. If they don't win a division, win a playoff game, and let's say Trevor Lawrence is a big reason why they don't win that playoff game, man, it's tough to justify giving a quarterback $55 million a year.
You know what I think? C.J. Stroud and DeMeco Ryans kill them because they seemed like they were the runaway team in that division. The Colts were rebuilding.
Oh, you mean for the future?
Now and the future. It seemed like the Jaguars...
No, I understand what you're saying. You're saying, a year ago, we would have totally just dismissed the Texans. No one would even talk about them.
The Jaguars just felt like the team that was going to have a stranglehold on that division.
Yes, to win that division.
Yes, and that Texans team is only getting better. You had Stephon Diggs, you had Danielle Hunter. Mm-hmm. That team is only getting better. They're young, they're thriving. So it feels like they're on the way up, and the Jaguars are kind of plateauing.
Colts did a good job too.
So even if the Jaguars missing the playoffs, if they have 9 wins or 10 wins and miss the playoffs, I think that's acceptable. I think it's acceptable in that division.
It's not a disaster, but it's not good.
Correct. It's one of those things where you can say, all right, we're not
hypothetically,
sky's not falling.
The Texans went 10-7 last year. If the Texans and Jaguars both go 10-7, and because of tiebreakers, Texans win out, and then another tiebreaker, you miss the playoffs, you won't get slammed for it. That's fair. That's a fair way of putting it. Right. But you know what? We did this a week ago, AFC division winners. And I'm pretty sure we all went around the room and picked the Texans. Wouldn't it be so NFL to have everyone be on the Texans take a little step back? I love Stroud. I think he's the 5th best quarterback in football right now. But you got a little bit of a sophomore slump where you don't plummet, but you take a little bit of a step back. And then the Jaguars, who were the team in the AFC South, or ended up, they basically did something similar to the Texans, right? They went from worst to first. And then they end up winning that division, and then Texans go from worst to first, or second to worst to first, however you want to phrase it, and then they win the division. Wouldn't it be very fitting NFL-wise if the Jaguars win the division? I haven't officially done my NFL predictions yet. I'm kind of thinking right now I'm doing Jaguars to win the AFC South.
What would be or will be NFL fitting is
Colts
if
win it?
The Titans. and listen, the Titans, if Will Levis could be the guy, they have talent. They've got defensive talent. Landry's coming back from injury. They've got offensive talent with all those receivers. They signed Pollard. They've got talent.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of Will Levis being the guy, but that's more NFL fitting. Worst to first, a team that nobody expects to do anything. We thought the Texans were going to be a top 5 pick, and the Cardinals were going to get that pick for the Will Anderson trade. It turned out that they won the division, and they're like a rising team. That's what the NFL is. We can always find a team that this team might go worst to first. Every year there's a team that nobody expected to go worst to first, going worst to first. So the Titans might be that one.
I got to go look at the Vegas odds. So to win the 2024 AFC South, because whatever it is, I may put a few shekels on the Jaguars. I just think you get good value for that right now. The Jaguars to win that division are at plus 270. That's a pretty damn good bet. The Colts are at plus 330. At plus 800, you have the Titans. Plus 800. That's pretty damn good. Plus one, at plus 110, are the Texans doing that for me? Or plus 105? No, I'm not making that bet.
It's not worth the risk.
No. By the way, this is far from over. In golf, you can never celebrate. I put down $25 to win $1,500 on Patrick Cantlay to win the U.S. Open. I was offered a cash out today of $140, but I've always bet Cantlay, so I won't do it. Cantlay is even through 13. He's 5 under for the tourney. But, Ack was laughing at that. What was so funny about that, Ack?
Take the money.
Nah, come on. I've had a religious betting experience betting Patrick Cantlay in majors. Okay. If he, you're probably right. He probably won't win it. So 25 to win 150, I'll probably end up regretting it. But if he somehow wins this major and I would have won $1,500, would have been a tough pill to swallow.
If you would have won 30,000, that would be a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah. Oh, $1,500 is still pretty good.
Yeah, but would you do? Maybe do they come back to you later? Is it like a bargaining thing? How about $250?
Well, if he performs better today, then yeah.
Okay.
But the other bet I made two $25 bets for. I usually do usually do $60 and do 23 outright winners. I only did $50 and did 2 outright winners. The other one is Hideki Matsuyama, who I think rose up 42 spots today.
There you go. Yeah, he had a decent day. I think he was, 3 under?
4 under.
4 under.
So he shot a 66.
Yeah, and he's right in the thick of things. He's 4 shots off the lead.
Yeah, not to steal your update here, but he's 2 under for the tourney.
Yes.
So I'm feeling in a decent spot.
Now,
do
you have Tiger in your update?
I do not.
Oh.
But he's at 6 over.
He's 2 over for the day, 6 over. He's right now 2 shots off the projected cut.
2 over for Tiger's pretty good these days.
Giving Tiger
2 over for the
Woods
day.
For the day, I'm
now,
saying, for a round.
Giving Tiger Woods results right now is, and this is going to date myself a little, is like giving Willie Mays stats every day when he played with the Mets. That's what it's like.
This is Friday of a major. He's 2 shots off of the cut. I think that still matters.
Call it Alex Rodriguez in his later days with the Yankees. How about that?
So right now, I put $25 down to win $1,025 on Hideki Matsuyama to win. I could cash out and get a grand total of $32.46. Not worth it. I am right now, Cantlay, 25 to win 1,525. I could cash out and get a $150.27. You want to go Peter Luger tonight?
There you go.
Right? It's like a solo meal at Peter Luger.
There you go.
I'm going to ride it. I'm going to ride it on both. And I'm going to feel confident.
Well, it doesn't make sense to cash out on Hideki Matsuyama.
No, not at all. No, not at all. But for Cantlay, it's pretty damn good. But I have an emotional attachment with Cantlay, and he has recognized my fandom.
There you go.
And I think he knows that I'm his biggest fan outside of his family and.
Well, he still has, he still has a couple of holes left today. Maybe he birdies a couple before it's all said and done. He's at 7 under par, and you're looking even better.
Also, with Father's Day coming up this weekend, Sunday, I do enjoy Sunday, U.S. Open, hanging with my old man.
Lasagna?
No lasagna. We're doing filet mignon wrapped in bacon. Right. And watching the U.S. Open, if I got a little skin in the game, too, that could also make it a very fun Father's Day as well.
Okay.
So,
how often will they offer you to cash out?
I think, I had DeChambeau outright to win at the PGA. And when he walked into the clubhouse, it wasn't enough, but they offer a cash out. They offer it throughout the day, and then after the rounds, and then eventually they'll take it off the board whatever algorithm or whatever they feel as if it's a fit. If Cantlay is plummeting, maybe they'll offer me $2 back or something, but I'm not going to take that. God forbid he turns it around and has a great one. So, alrighty, here will be more U.S. Open updates with the Ackman, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
All right, now your leader is Ludwig Olberg. I wonder how much he would pay out on $25. But he is 2 under through 13 and has a one-shot lead over the aforementioned Patrick Cantlay. Also in the mix at 5 under par is Matthew Pavone, who's 2 under through 12 today. And then Bryson DeChambeau, Thomas Dietrich, and Tony Finau are each at 4 under. Rory McIlroy, the first-round co-leader, was 2 over today. And Hideki Matsuyama also at 2 under par with Davis Thompson, while Tiger Woods likely missing the cut at 6 over, and Scotty Scheffler at 5 over after a second-round 74. The NBA season could come to an end tonight, as no team in NBA history has rallied from a 3-0 playoff deficit. The Dallas Mavericks are in that spot right now. They host the Celtics in Game 4, trying to make history. They'll also need more from Luka Doncic after he fouled out on Wednesday with 4 minutes left. Kristaps Porzingis remains a question mark after missing Game 3 with an ankle injury. At Wrigley this afternoon, the Cards blanked the Cubs 3-0. Pedro Pages snapped a scoreless tie in the 8th with his first big league homer. Kyle Gibson, 7 scoreless innings, allowing 2 hits. I'm Rich Ackerman.
You make the call. 855-212-4227. When you want to talk to us, call 855-212-4227.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick from the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
It's time to answer Ask the Pros question of the day. It's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. And for our question today, we do have Dan in Boston, who says, Zach, who do you think is going to win the NBA Finals Game 4 tonight? You can submit a question by tweeting at INF Sportsnet or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag #AskThePros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. I kind of want to see this go to Game 5, but I follow the signs here, Samter. And the signs tell me this. Sully called in yesterday, and it was what he usually goes by, John in Arkansas. And what did he go by yesterday? Someone in Maryland?
Larry in Baltimore.
Larry in Baltimore. And Sully has Game 5 tickets. Now, I once had Game 5 tickets for Lakers and Nuggets out in Denver. And this was 2 years ago. And that didn't happen because the Lakers got swept by the Nuggets. Sully's cell phone dropped during the call. That's an ominous sign. The other day, I would have said, this is why they pay me to give you analysis on basketball. The other day, I would have said, Dallas wins, they force a Game 5, and then Boston wins on their home court. I think because Sully's phone call dropped, and he had tickets for Game 5, that's a sign that the Celtics are going to sweep this series, and the Celtics take care of business tonight. Anyway, Samter tells me that they have released the Madden 99 Club. So how many people are in this year's version of Madden 99, and it's if you're ranked 99 in Madden, which is the highest score you can get in Madden. I think there should be a 100 ranking, by the way.
I know, it's crazy. There are 5 players in the Madden 99.
5. You know what? Let's see if I can guess it without any clues.
Okay.
Tyreek Hill.
1.
He's on the cover. Christian McCaffrey.
2.
Patrick Mahomes.
3.
Trent Williams.
No.
Ooh. Is there an offensive lineman?
No.
Okay. Myles Garrett.
No.
TJ Watt?
Nope.
Oh, boy.
I'll give you a hint.
Justin Jefferson.
Yes, that's 4.
See, I thought because Jefferson got hurt, I think he was in it last year, they would not give it to him.
So you got 4 of the 5. Mahomes, McCaffrey, Jefferson, Tyreek Hill. You're missing 1.
This guy should not be on it. But if Madden's trying to sell video games and get an extra pop, Travis Kelce.
Travis Kelce, number 5.
He should not be on it. I'm sorry.
5 players With the Madden 99 club, Mahomes, McCaffrey, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, not a single defensive player. That, to me, is an insult to Myles Garrett and T.J. Watt.
T.J. Watt, too.
But T.J. Watt
Notice
got
we didn't
hurt
say
a little
Micah
bit, too.
Parsons.
Yeah.
He would think he should be like 1,000 in that game.
And also to Trent Williams and the offensive linemen.
Yeah.
No offensive linemen, no defensive players. Sauce Gardner, nope.
Too early for him to be a 99.
He's been there for a couple of years now. He's done enough.
To get a 99, no, he hasn't. He's a good player. Don't get me wrong. Deserved to be in the 90s, even mid-90s. But 99, I'm not giving him 99 after 2 years. But
Two-time first-team All-Pro.
I
been
understand.
in the league for 3 years.
I understand. This is going to be his third year this year, right? Sauce Gardner?
No, you're right. I'm sorry. He's been in the league for 2 years, both years, first-team All-Pro. That's a 99.
No, it's not. He's phenomenal. Don't get me wrong, but if there's only 5 people on the 99, clearly it's sacred. You can't just put him there yet. So you told me we were going to do this, and that's why I was looking at my computer. I jotted down a few names. And I had Tyreek, Mahomes, I had Run CMC, I had Myles Garrett, and then Trent Williams. I thought for sure they would put a lineman on there. And surprise, no defense. So let's go through this. Tyreek, because isn't it based off last year and what you did and then how you will project into this year, you would think?
Yeah, I believe so.
So the 5 are Kelce, Run CMC, Jay Jettis, Justin Jefferson, Mahomes, and Tyreek. Tyreek deserves to be there after last year. Mahomes deserves to be there after last year. I think this is going to surprise people because I'm one of his biggest fans. Justin Jefferson's phenomenal, but since he got hurt last year, I thought he was going to get moved down I think it was a 99 last year. I thought he would get moved down to like a 98 or 97.
He had 1,000 yards in nine games, so I think that's
pretty
okay.
Damn good.
Yeah, I think that's a 99 still.
Yeah. No,
he was on pace for 2,000, basically. 2,000 yards and 10 touchdowns.
Run CMC, no issue with. Kelce, they'll have an issue with. Kelce, I take issue with. Because isn't that's based off what you've done in the past, but that's Taylor Swift driven. He had 93 receptions last year, 984 yards, and 5 touchdowns. It's a good season. It's a very good season. But is that a 99, Samter?
No, that was his second lowest reception total, lowest yards total, and lowest touchdowns total in years.
Now, balled out in
5,
the playoffs.
6, 7 years.
Balled out in the playoffs. But receptions in the league, he was 16th. And he's basically the Chiefs' number 1 wide receiver. Receiving yards, he was 29th. He was tied for 35th in touchdowns based off last season. Madden. Can you just put... Madden should put on the cover? Taylor freaking Swift. Taylor Swift should have been on the cover of Madden. Not Christian McCaffrey if we're going to make Travis Kelce in the 99 club. That's my take of the day, Sam. How do you like that?
No, I agree. Myles Garrett, I think, has the biggest gripe. T.J. Watt, he was hurt. Myles Garrett has the biggest gripe.
Whoa, no. T.J. Watt has the biggest gripe. Maybe even Trent Williams. T.J. Watt led the league in sacks. He was the defensive player of the year. And no, T.J. Watt was hurt 2 years ago, not last year.
I'm sorry. Then I was thinking, then T.J. Watt.
Yeah, he had 17 games last year, 19 sacks. How is that? How is both of them? Because I think you're splitting hairs between the two. You're splitting hairs between the two. I think T.J. Watt, just because he's led the league in sacks 3 of the last 4 years, that's why I put him there. But Myles Garrett, remember that one game where he was running from the left tackle to the right tackle, left tackle to the right tackle, and they had to call a timeout because they were that distracted by Myles Garrett? Yeah, I'm surprised no offensive lineman and surprised not one defensive player.
And Myles Garrett is the reigning defensive player of the year. T.J. Watt won it 3 years ago.
T.J. Watt didn't win the...
He won in 21, then Nick Bosa, Myles Garrett last year.
Oh, yeah, he did get screwed. T.J. Watt, he led the league in sacks. You're right. But that's kind of crazy to me. That's why, so Garrett is defensive player of the year, but T.J. Watt led the league in sacks. How is he not a 99? He's done it 3 of the last 4 years. How is he not? Both.
They're listening to Micah
Watt
Parsons.
And Garrett should both be in there.
They're listening to Micah Parsons.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, all righty. This is Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. Fun week. Big thanks to Chris Hess. Big thanks to Michael Samter, each and every one of you. Aaron Bronstetter for stopping by as well. We'll be back on Monday, everybody, at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Have a good weekend. Have a safe weekend. Happy Father's Day to all. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.